you good, Joe?
I am.
Okay, I'm good. Yes, roll it.
Okay, good evening. We're going to call to order the RMA Board of Directors meeting for August 21st, 2018. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We'll start with roll call, please. Here.
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 Thank you. The first item on the agenda is public comments, and I'm going to assume that most of you are here for that. So I'm going to read the spiel I need to read, and then I'll give you a little preview of how we're going to do this, and then we'll roll. So public comments, the public shall have the opportunity to directly address the board on any items of interest. Public comments on any, on items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the board are welcome, subject to reasonable time limitations for each speaker. If you wish to address the board at this time, please state your name and lot number, and reserve your comments to no more than 3 minutes so that others may be allowed to speak. No action will be taken on your comments. Each item of business will be introduced by the President on the regular agenda, and public comment for that item will be opened, and the public will have the opportunity to speak on that item. Public comment for that item will be then closed, and no additional comment will be allowed. At that time, the board will discuss the item and then take action. Okay, so before we open up for comments, let me just please, we do have a really big agenda tonight, and there's a lot of people, so we would really like to keep you to 3 minutes. We've got a little timer here. If you could limit your comments to that'd be appreciated. Also, if you hear comments that mirror yours, if you could maybe defer then to that person's comments, we'd appreciate that as well. And then I do also want to point out that I know that there's been some chatter about the RMA board's our goals, and they're up there ranked. I just want to point out, that was just a brainstorm session. None of those decisions are final, and in October we do our budget meeting, and then we vote and make decisions on those. So don't think that anything has been finalized up there. It was just brainstorm. That's what that is, and you can see how the board has ranked them at this point, subject to change. So I think that does it for my preview. We've got our timer ready to go. If you could please state your name and lot number, and let's hear the comments.
Good evening. My name, is Jude Gaither, and the lot number 441. And first of all, I will be brief, but I did want to say thank you to all of you for volunteering your time. I know that it is very time-consuming, and sometimes it's a thankless job. But I'm here tonight because I have had a great deal of concerns about the deterioration of some of our properties. And I brought exhibits for you, some pictures for you to pass around that are examples of just a few of the properties that I see frequently, and of which I've taken a picture. And I know that we have CCNRs that are supposed to prevent this kind of deterioration. And I'm seeing it too much, and frankly, I don't like it. I'm really very upset about it. We moved here with the idea of it's a gated community, and it has CCNRs, and we actually came from another community in the Bay Area with CCNRs and never saw anything like this. But it's really pretty egregious. And I'm here tonight because I'm hoping that there will be some attention to this problem, more than there has been, because it's needed. And I think this is a lovely community, and I hate to see it go downhill in this way. Thank you.
Ms. Glazier, have you taken these photos to the RMA office and you've shown them?
No, I have not.
Okay, I would maybe suggest that you do that and let them know.
Okay, do I talk to somebody in particular? Or? What do I do with them?
Where would you like those? Send them to Miss Denise Hetline over there will be able to
Okay.
take that.
All right, thank you.
My name is Betty Ferraro. My lot number is 197B. I'm here today to ask strongly that you look at a policy to be developed between yourself and CSD on evacuation of this community. I bet you half the people in this community that are sitting here cannot tell me, in case that they got a call saying evacuate now, how they'd get out of this gated community. I would like that the managers talk together. The managers will present a item on their agenda that states that they have formulated a plan. When the two plans are formulated, it be presented to your boards directly, both RMA and CSD, and then by the end of September, both boards would meet as an open meeting for the public to comment so that we can formulate a plan before fire comes down out of an area that we cannot control and you have gross panic, because everybody here I think is going to say we've got one gate on the south, we have maybe two gates on the north, and that's not sufficient enough to get this community out. I've already talked to CSD and I've already talked to Greg about this. I know that RMA has a plan, and their plan basically, as Greg has said, is more for evacuation in case of flood. So please give Greg your undivided attention right now and have him put it on the agenda for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment?
My name is Ruth Lecklermore. I am lot 2011, and I am here to talk about the pickleball, which was on that subject of the meeting workshop last time. That was merely a workshop. And we are requesting 2 new pickleball courts at Rancho Murieta at Stonehouse Park. We already have 2, but our community is growing. And we are growing only because of word of mouth and people coming by while we are playing. We play 5 days a week in the morning, drop-in pickle, and right now it is 2 days are men, 2 days are women, and then 1 day, Saturday, is co-ed. And the reason we did it that way is because when everyone came out every day, we had too many people. Now, we only play in the morning because in the summer it is just too hot. Now, what we want to do is we want to promote this to more people. Right now it's just word of mouth. And it is a game for all ages, not just for old people. And I went on vacation in South Carolina, and we played pickle. And I taught the game to all my in-laws, my brothers and sisters, my nieces and nephews in 20 minutes. And we had the best time. Now, they had, where we were staying, they had pickleball courts. I was the oldest person on the court. The courts were filled with teenagers, with children, with parents, with grandparents, everyone playing the game. It is an easy game to learn. It is a quick game to become relatively good at, so that you have fun. I think it would be a great asset to Rancho Murieta to add more courts, and other communities are adding courts, and I think that newcomers coming into this community will expect this amenity from a community of our stature and our size. So I wish you would all come out and give us a try, and I hope you will consider upping that priority to give us a pickleball courts, additional pickleball courts at Stonehouse. Thank you.
Thank you. Ruth, I have a quick question for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
How many players do you have show up on those days?
We have, right now, I have an email list that I keep from everyone, and we have 41 players that are active. On my email list, I have over 70 people. Some of them are not want to
Sure.
come, haven't had the opportunity to.
And how often do you guys use the facilities on the south?
We have, since we've moved to the north, we've used them several times. What happens, though, is that we split up and have some go to the north and some go to the south, and then we run into tennis players. And obviously, tennis players, they feel because that is a tennis court, and we have our pickleball courts, so then we end up coming back. But because of the logistics of the north and south and getting from back and forth, it's really quite difficult to do that type of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joseph Marino. My lot number is 639. And I'm here today to talk about the pickleball courts. My name is Joseph Marino. I'm in 7th grade. I go to K. Albiani Middle School. My friends and I often go to the park to play basketball. We usually go after school and on the weekend. There are only 3 hoops at Stonehouse, and sometimes we cannot get on a court. There are not a lot of options for outdoor physical activities for kids like me. Taking away another basketball court is a bad idea because it will limit the activities we can do. Thank you for understanding.
Good evening. I'm Don Craig, lot number 661, and I'm here to speak on behalf of pickleball, a pro pickleball player. Ruth, I think, shared a lot of the information I was planning on sharing, but I kind of had a little different bent that I wanted to share with you, is that Rancho Murieta is a community of all ages. By some surveys, Rancho Murieta has 64% of our residents over 40 years of age. And if we look at the activities available for able-bodied mature residents by RMA, we have the bocce ball courts. The cost of maintenance, I believe, is limited. We have tennis courts. The cost of maintenance is limited. We do have pickleball courts. The cost of maintenance is limited or none. If we look at the activities available for younger residents maintained by RMA, we have playgrounds, cost limited except for building the new one at Greens Park and new equipment installed at Stonehouse Park at a substantial cost and manpower. And it's suggested new covers are going to run about $166,000. We have soccer fields, one at Riverview Park, 3 at Stonehouse Park, one of which was recently installed at substantial cost and manpower, all of which need continuing water, maintenance, mowing, and associated costs. I understand there's disc golf newly installed. The costs are unknown, but I would expect that to be limited maintenance. Little League baseball and softball, we have 4 fields, all needing watering, mowing, and manpower to maintain. We have dog parks with lights, which all can use, but come associated with maintenance costs. All of these we do, as residents, totally support, and our dues pay all associated costs for these activities. Motorcycle parking, new expected cost of $25,000. I venture to say we have more pickleball players than there are owners of motorcycles in Rancho Murieta North. Pickleball courts can and are used by all ages of our residents from 80 to 8 years of age or younger. In fact, they're presently used, as Ruth mentioned, 5 days a week, mostly in the AM hours, but residents can be seen using it all times of the day on various days. The basketball courts are not used on a regular schedule, and it's been hard to find any use at all at Stonehouse Park, in light of what my good friend Joseph had mentioned. The basketball courts at the gazebo in Riverview Park, on the other hand, seem to be well used. And we have been documenting this. We've been taking pictures and seeing who's out on the basketball courts that are playing at times of the food trucks and that sort of thing, and it just doesn't get a lot of play. But there's still 2.5 courts there available, although it doesn't get a lot of play, in my opinion. Our pickleball group would like to host tournaments without said groups, and the present 2 courts are inadequate, not to mention the large numbers of players on Saturday. Pickleball is a growing sport, and our group has been hesitant to advertise for more players due to the lack of courts. But we do have 1 or 2 new players that come out each week. And as Ruth mentioned, we've got 70 people on our list. I don't totally understand the pushback from the community when the cost to maintain pickleball courts is at a minimum as compared to other activities available for people of our younger generation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tom Burkhart. My lot's 3025, I think. Can never remember that one for sure. Just want to address your question about the pickleball using the tennis courts on the south. Pickleball is a very social game, so it's much better and really only works if it's all in one location. So if you have a group of people, in our case, there are 8 playing and there are 16 waiting. So the 8 finish, 8 more go out. And you just rotate like that all the time. So you're mixing with all kinds of people in play. So sending someone to the south doesn't really work that well. They have to be a separate group by itself. So I just want to make sure you understood that.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Are there any further comments?
It's not about pickleball. I love pickleball. So my name is Peter Lindbeck, lot number 1394, and I want to talk about something a little more scary. Security, which is something that moving out here I didn't think I would ever really think about in Rancho Murieta. But this morning, my lady's grandparents got their golf cart stolen right out of their garage. And I'm hearing a story from this Sunday on the south side that somebody had their car stolen within our gates. And I don't know if there's an easy answer for this, but thinking it over, we made a lot of observations about the way that security's been running over the last 6 months at least. And a few things that we noticed. On the 4th of July, we had to get the passes, but the people who came to visit us, their passes weren't even checked. We've had pest control vendors who weren't signed up on the list, and we never got a call and they were let through. I know that you aren't in charge of this, but considering the fact that, or at least it's my understanding that you're not in control of it, but considering the fact that it's, to me, an urgent thing, and the meeting that addresses that isn't until the beginning of September, I figured I'd bring it up to you. Other things that we've seen, people with passes that have been supposed to be for a day or two, and they've gone on 3-4 weeks at a time, people walking through the gates who aren't checked. You know, I know that we all moved here for different reasons, and one of them is security. And this is just surprising and a little bit scary, but I think it's something that can be fixed with your help. So I guess what I'm doing is trying to bring awareness to this. Nobody really would think of these things, and I'm even hearing of home break-ins, these kind of things, and I don't even have a security system on my house. I guess I shouldn't say that. I'm probably safe here. We don't have a security system. We have a really big dog and yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, we do have one of those, and yeah, some cameras. Not always, and that's the thing, yeah. So, and I like that feeling. So I think a lot of us do. So I think we need to address this. We spend a lot of money, and we have the security guards up front. I think they used to do a really good job before I lived here. I mean, I could never get through unless I was like on the list. But now it's just, I don't understand it. So I just wanted to bring awareness, and I'll be sure to go to the next meeting. But thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, Zach Morey, 7017 Lindero Lane. I don't have my lot number on me at this time. I would like to address security as well. We moved over to Lindero Lane about a year ago, and we've been on the south side for about 10 years. And what I noticed when we moved over there is all the people that hang out at the gazebo after hours. I've called security over dozens of times to report this behavior, drinking, smashing bottles, marijuana use. I've filled out several of the written reports. Seems like they've been instructing me, we observe and report. But we didn't move to Rancho Murieta to have people observe and report. We want them to call the police department, have them come out, give DUIs, search these individuals that are out there at 11 and midnight drinking and smashing bottles and smearing feces on the walls of our bathrooms. That's unacceptable behavior here, I mean, or anywhere. We want them held accountable. We don't want that type of behavior here. We've been told, oh, we don't want them up at the upper lakes. We want to isolate them. These are young adults. They're over 21 years of age. I'm a correction officer at Mill Creek State Prison, and then I can babysit them in the next year or two if they keep messing up. The point I'm trying to say is, I have a 9-year-old that enjoys playing at the park. I don't want her finding drugs and cigarettes. We have a CSD comes every morning, patrols that. I don't know if you guys know, and they pick up cigarette butts and smash bottles and throw up their cleaning up off the grounds. I mean, is this what we want our kids playing around in? I definitely don't want it. And why are we allowing it? So, I mean, and security says, oh, well, our hands are tied. We don't have the authority to search them. Well, then call the police department in and have them do it. Let's be proactive instead of reactive. You know, let's get them here and start giving these DUIs before they speed up the parkway and run into a house.
Zach, real quick, when you said you called security,
Yes.
What was the response like when you called
They said,
security?
we'll send a unit over there to get there. And they just come over, hey, guys, come on, can you leave? You know, and they'll leave, and then they'll come back. But the shack is right there. It's 10 feet from the park. You can't see them there. We have cameras there. We know what's going on because the CSD sends a person over every morning to clean up the crap. That's why I don't get it. Why are we allowing this to go on? And how come as a community we don't stop this and request that we get more action from the local law enforcement? Come out here, give them a DUI, tow their vehicles. We don't want that stuff going on here. That's why we stay here. So I just, I would prefer to see security and other people come over and be more involved. And that observe and report probably is not good enough for us. It's our kids that are over there playing, and we deserve better as a community out here. Yeah, thank you.
Any further comments from the public before we close that item?
Slowly. My name is Jennifer Heavenston, and lot number 1983. I'm going to address the pickleball issue. I think the primary issue for most of us, the over 225 people that signed the petition to rebut that proposal, was in relation to the source of the space. There's existing space that we've all talked about that's well used. We're all on there. And I will say in particular, my personal experience is that I have 2 children that simply walked through the pickleball court and were yelled at for walking through them. Because it is true, I was there. So you can deny it, but it happened. And so the issue is that this is a space that children play on. It was already occupied with that space. The children were used to playing on that space, and now we're going to even potentially further use that area. Doesn't make sense. We're not against pickleball. We love the idea that we have pickleball. It's the space and the place that it was positioned. The other issue is the verbiage of exclusive use. This is not appropriate. This is something that we should all be able to use, even if it's just us walking across or the kids playing. If pickleball players aren't playing, if they're not being destructive or disruptive, there's no harm.
Okay, all right. Jennifer has the floor here, so please let her finish.
I think that the majority of us that signed that petition believe in the resource that pickleball is. We think it's great. We think it's potentially useful for families. What we don't agree with is where it's located.
And can I make a comment? Okay, I'd like to make a comment, Alex.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and I want to make sure everybody understands this is my comment, not a representative of the board. But I went over there, and it seems to me the kids have the playground equipment, they have 1.5 basketball courts,
They have all the lawn area that you can possibly think of. The adequate rules for the pickleball courts are well marked. It says for pickleball only. A 3-year-old can't open that gate by themselves. And it seems to me there's plenty of other areas for the kids to play, and I think it's more of a matter of common courtesy than, and respecting association property.
Mike Martell, 424, and I really do not like coming up here and talking. But security is such an important issue in this community. Behavior is going to change depending on how old you are and what your wants are. We spent 18 months getting every entity to sit down and discuss security. We imposed the $1,200 fee on all new development to allow us to buy cameras, to put them in strategic locations, to allow the patrol to, there's 3,500 acres, to make decisions when there's nobody in the back lake and it's really dark. We know where everybody lives at. We know what age groups are living in what places. We know from the time the school gets out and to the time the sun sets early that most of the vandalism and the stuff goes on there. Adults make bad decisions also. But we're allowing our security to slip because we need to have a comprehensive plan on how we're going to deal with this stuff. And we're getting away from the study that we did where everybody had a seat at the table. Every entity identified their wish list for cameras. We have fiber optics everywhere in this community already dug in place. And no disrespect, we get new general managers and new boards and that kind of stuff, and we get off the mark or not fulfilling the obligation to keep this place safe, to make people behave, and to manage the place. And with recreation, when I moved here, there was no parks at all. There's a little bit on the front. With good planning, I like some of your ideas, and you need to think how to please everybody, not just one project at a time. We need some thought process. And I am older now. I haven't played pickleball yet, but I think they're having a lot of fun. I like the basketball courts, the gazebo. You can light a park, that kind of stuff there. So I think you guys, I'm just offering you need to think this thing through instead of dividing us. We need to fix the problem, but security has to come first. Thank you.
Just so the community knows, there is a joint security meeting. Do we have a date on that joint security meeting, Greg? Okay,
No.
but we do have a joint security meeting with coming up shortly to discuss some of these issues, so we're working on it. Any further comments?
Betty Ferraro, 197B. For those that are in the audience, I've been on the security meetings because I was a CSD board, and I wanted to make you safe. However, we were hamstrung by the fact that there's a law that says we can only observe and report. We sent out several times a survey to the public saying, will you please provide more money so we can get security, the money they need in order to hire people and to change things. In fact, we even asked, do you want DUIs to be done within the community? These are private streets. Every survey from the public says, no, no, no. We do not want any more security money taken out. The only thing then is you don't get what you want. So if there's another survey or support, you need to call the Sheriff's Department and back us up. The Sheriff Department right now won't listen to us because you do not call. My neighbor had their car broken into. He was told by security, we take your report, but you have to fill out the form for the Sheriff's Department. If you, in the audience, and of course I know the board does this, if you don't fill out those forms, we're not going to get the support because the area the sheriff has is very large. Ask Mike Martell. He also knows after years of trying to get the services. So all I'm saying is please don't point your finger at the security guards because they're doing the best they can, being that their hands are tied in many respects because we, as the public, leaving in the gates, and this is debatable, I know with some of you, we have to do something. We have to look at how much money we're spending, how much we can depend upon RMA to support us in these effects. Security gets paid at night by RMA to do your garage doors, your garbage cans, and so on. Otherwise, they don't get the funds. If you get a ticket for speeding, the money goes to RMA. Some of you think it goes to CSD because they're security. No. So think about where the money trail goes. And we need to work with RMA and CSD on better type of program or contracts in order to make us more secure. And we have to be the eyes because their eyes can't be everywhere. And when you see something happening, call and then follow through if it's a report that can go to the sheriff. That's all I implore you. Sorry, thank you.
Okay, are there any further public comments? Okay, thank everyone for their comments this evening. Consent agenda is the next item on our list. Consent calendar, excuse me. The consent calendar items are considered routine and will be approved by one motion. There will be no discussion of the items unless a director requests a specific item be removed. Did I not do that? That's coming up here. I got the minutes on file. Is that right? I got the minutes on file. The board will entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
Yes.
I move to approve the consent calendar as listed in our packet.
Okay. Second?
I'll second it.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the consent calendar, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 5 on our agenda is the minutes, and we have two different minutes to approve. Let's start with the minutes from July 17, 2018.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of July 17, 2018.
I'll second it.
Okay, so there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes from July 17, 2018, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We also have the minutes from August 21st. Nope, that's today. From August 15th, right?
Yes, 15.
August 15th minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for August 15th.
Thank you. Motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Second. Any further discussion?
I do actually have a slight discussion, and
Please.
this is probably going to show my age and inability to keep my thoughts straight. But on page 3, it was quoting me as saying that I am not in favor of speed trailers, and that's actually not true. Even though I think I said it.
It was speed humps.
It's speed humps that I'm not in favor of, and I'm definitely all for the speed trailers.
Okay. Well, we can make that correction.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes with the correction, and that's for August 15th, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. All right, so I've got my president's report. That's item 6 on the agenda for those who are following along. Excuse me. So we, in executive session, we addressed some legal invoices and some legal issues, and we heard an appeal. Unfortunately, we have some unfinished business and need to go back into executive session after open session. finish up that business. I also want to point out that in executive session, we did, I want to let the public know and the community know that we are still currently engaged in negotiations with the village regarding access fees. And so we feel like those talks have been going well, and that we hope to have a resolution with the village and find a mutually beneficial agreement on that, hopefully in the next month or so. And then my last item on my report is our meeting format. We discussed our meeting format. I just wanted to let the community know that starting in September, with our next open meeting, these are just for our open meetings, the public, we're going to limit public comments just to item 3, and then we're going to close public comments at that point, and the board will conduct its business at that point, and we won't be taking comments as we go through the agenda. So we will be accepting comments today, still on agenda items from the public as we go through the agenda, but starting next month, we're going to just take the comments at the beginning, like we had done this evening, and then close them, and then let the board conduct its business. So that's my report.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So you say we're still in discussion, so they're not going to necessarily be turned off September 1st, the access codes from the villages?
Yeah, correct. So we've granted them a month
Okay.
extension.
I don't think that was said, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if you said that when
Okay.
you were giving your report.
I just did.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Awesome. Mr. Vorster, I believe you have a report from the general manager's
The
chair.
first item I have is the pickleball petition, and so it's attached in your board packet. Basically, it's a petition from RMA residents concerned with expansion of a pickleball to the existing basketball court. So I just wanted to make sure that it gets recorded that you guys did receive the petitions in your packet. Any questions? Okay, the second item is CHP enforcement of RMA traffic rules. Staff contacted Supervisor Frost's office after the July board meeting seeking support from Sacramento County to deal with the residents' concerns of speeding and stop sign violations within the community. This was a result of the July meeting where we had a pretty good crowd concerned about the speeding and stop sign running. Supervisor Frost's office was very attentive to the concerns of the residents and reached out to the DA's office and Sacramento County Sheriff's Department. Through coordination between these two agencies, Supervisor Frost feels Rancho Murieta can arrange for CHP patrol and ticketing inside the gates. This form of enforcement would have a more punitive impact on the residents who violate the traffic rules than the current enforcement that is taking place. Staff has not moved forward with the proposed pending board discussion and direction. And so basically we have the option, if we so choose, to invite the CHP to come into our gates, and they would ticket as they would any other street in Sacramento or in Sacramento County. And those tickets would then be processed at the county level. They'd go on your driver's license. They'd be much larger fines than you currently receive through RMA. And so, like I say, we haven't gone forward with this because we wanted the board to be able to dialogue on it and get their feedback and direction. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
Can I ask a question on this? Is there any associated fee to residents?
No, no, there would not be.
So I'll comment on that. I wrote a pretty detailed email to the board in regards to some of the issues that this brings up, and even one of the members of the audience actually brought it up in a survey, and I do recall a CSD survey that was, I don't know, it was probably a couple years ago, where it asked the residents if they would like CHP to come in and do traffic enforcement in here, and it was a resounding no. It presents several issues. We say that there would be no cost, but realistically, if you ask the local command to come out here and do proactive traffic enforcement, again, they will send somebody out here, but they have to deploy their resources as necessary, as the commander feels necessary. That is mostly stat-driven. So when a commander is looking at where his problem areas are, as far as the accident picture, and the statistics and the injury crashes, Rancho Murieta really does not provide the statistics that would, where he would want to deploy a resource out here for any length of time. So what you would have possibly is that you might get an officer out here, and he would basically come out here at the direction of RMA. Again, it's private property, so that presents an issue where we would have to enter an agreement where infractions are enforceable within the community. Like Greg said, now running that stop sign, you don't get the warning in the mail, you don't get the $100 fine, you get the $250 fine and a point on your driving record. Now, if that's what the whole community wants, then maybe we need to take another survey and we can work in that direction. The other issue it proposes is that, in my opinion, it has to be all or nothing. You cannot have a CHP come out here and write tickets for stop sign and speeding violations one day, and he can't make it out here, and CSD writes the same violations the next day. So the people that were out here that got tickets from the CHP officer got $250 fines and points on the driving records, and the ones that got it from CSD got either a warning or maybe a $100 fine. So it's all or nothing. So I don't know how you work that out. I don't think you can have both. I don't think it's fair to the community. The other option, where we talked about it wouldn't be a cost, is that if you wanted to, you could do, which communities do, is a reimbursable contract, which you would actually enter into a reimbursable contract with CSD with CHP or the Sheriff's Department, and it would be for an allotted amount of time that you would have proactive enforcement out here. So you would have, for that period of time, you would have basically an officer come out here and he would work the streets of Rancho Murieta for that specific period of time. Again, they're only out here for 4 hours, or whatever you want to do, 4 or 8 hours a day, but that is expensive. It is expensive to pay an officer overtime to come out here and issue citations. So, in my opinion, I think there are many alternatives. Again, as Mike Martell said, a comprehensive plan as far as some of the solutions that we're talking about, photo enforcement trailers, speed humps, stepped up security or more direction to the CSD officers. I just think that there are other solutions rather than bringing enforcement out here. The other thing that, again, you can't bring an officer out here and tell him, hey, just do the stop signs, and the speeding, okay? When that guy has his Coors Light and he's going from the golf course to his house, don't look at that, okay? It also presents some other things where not all the golf carts out here are legally allowed to be on the streets because they've been modified. And if you look at the definition of what a golf cart is and how it's defined in the vehicle code, it wouldn't be, if it's modified, if it has more than 2 seats, that's one of them that defines a golf cart. So when you modify it, you change it, therefore you change the regulations and then what it has to be equipped with. So it opens up just a whole can of worms, and I don't think that's the solution out here. I might be in the minority on that, but I think there's some arguments against that. So I would like to explore all of our other options before we move forward with that, Greg. That's my opinion.
I'm sure that I will not get the same applause. I think this community has voiced an opinion that they're not comfortable with the security we have. I think there are a lot of other issues besides just moving violations. I think there's theft, there's vandalism, there's people who are afraid to get out of the house. And I think that having the sheriff or the highway patrol have regular patrols out here that doesn't cost us anything is a wise decision to make. What we have now is nothing. We have no security whatsoever. We have a security force that is observe and report. I can do that myself. I shouldn't have to pay some other agency here to do observe and report. And what we're not getting is we're not getting the sheriff, we're not getting the highway patrol, because they think we have our own internal operation that doesn't require their presence. So we're paying taxes like everyone else in the county for no official law enforcement out here at all. And I think that's unfair to the population, and I think they've spoken and told us that we need a change. And this is a minor change that could help, and I think we should pursue it.
Hey.
Applause.
So, I think you're talking about two different issues there. So, within the county of Sacramento, CHP has primary jurisdiction over traffic, okay? Sheriff's Department has jurisdiction over crimes. And so, if you want same thing, all right, the Sheriff's Department operates the same way. So if they have 1 or 2 officers out in Wilton, and they're gonna staff 5 in the south area, because that's where the demand is. Realistically, I get it. Someone has their golf cart stolen out here, that's basically the worst thing that happened to you. And that is, it's offensive, and you've been victimized. But realistically, in the world of law enforcement, that's not a high priority crime. I don't wanna burst anyone's bubble or minimize it for anybody, but that's not a high priority crime. For the Sheriff's Department to staff somebody in this part of the county for a long period of time, that's taken him from an area that he is needed much more frequently. Now, again, you can enter into a reimbursable contract with the Sheriff's Department, which would cost the residents money. If that's something the residents want, and they want to make their voice heard, that's something that we want to do, where you want to staff sheriff officer out here. I believe we do it for security for large events. If we want to do that on a regular basis, I think that's something the board would consider. But again, that would be, you'd want to staff sheriff's officer out here. We did have a substation at one time where they were out here.
We have a center over there behind the CSD office, yes.
Right.
A safety center.
Which would obviously cut down on the response time, and you would have, if you gave direction to the Sheriff's Department. But again, you have the commander who's trying to deal with his resources and place them in the places that they're needed most. And I'm just being frank with you guys, realistically, the calls for service inside Rancho Murieta gates and the calls for service in other parts of the county don't even compare. They don't even compare. So that's what you're up against. That's what you're up against. And that's what you gotta think about.
Well, and it kind of started with the whole, safety on our high roads in here. And I think we've been taking some really positive steps to address that. And as far as, break-ins and, theft crimes and things like that, a lot of it has to do with unlocked cars, unlocked doors. I think there was a big story about that. So there's a lot of personal responsibility that comes with, securing your own self and your own possessions and your own home. And I think that goes a long way, along with our safety measures we're taking for the road that we're adding in. I don't really see a need for the CHP or the sheriffs, because their services really are needed in other places in the county, more so than here.
Cheryl, would you like to add?
I think I'd just like to add that this has got a lot of attention in the last couple of months, when our conversations at every board meeting seem to be talking about, the issues of security and, starting with traffic and those problems, and then now starting with just feeling secure behind the gates. So we have plans to have a joint security meeting. We've heard a lot of input from people. We've gotten letters, all kinds of information. We're all really concerned about it. Every board member is very concerned about it. There's not one of us that doesn't think about this a lot and think about what are some of the remedies that we can put in place. Some of the things that you see up on the board for our goals were things that we could actually do something about. others are going to be involved in bringing other agencies together to discuss this issue and try to put some prioritization on some of the things that need to be done over the next year. But we're all committed to doing something about it. We just want you to know that.
I just wanted to say that what I would like to see, and I'm not sure if it's the joint meeting that would be best, is I think maybe a tiered approach to this problem might be best. Like Cheryl mentioned, we do have items in our goal that may address one portion of it. I think that it needs to be, like Rob mentioned, a comprehensive plan as opposed to just kind of cherry picking different items, which I think might help alleviate some of the fears. But what I really would like to see, and maybe as Mr. Martell mentioned that we haven't done such a good job on, is have fixed set points where we reevaluate where we're at in the process. So in 1 month, we reevaluate this process. Do we need to readdress the issue with CHP? Do we need to adjust something to look at something different? In 3 months, what is our goal? What's our data point that we're looking for change or whatever the case might be, so that we're reevaluating it, you know, at 1, 3, 6 months to see where we're at.
Rob's made some very good points. In fact, for those in the audience, Rob, who do you work for right now?
I work for CHP.
Okay, so that's why he has such a detailed information, which I'm glad he did share with all of us, and it's been very helpful. I do agree with Rob that I think right now we need to give CSD and RMA a chance to move forward and present some traffic calming, you know, just take care of some of the traffic calming problems that we have. I mean, speed has been an issue, stop signs been an issue, but with recently, with some of the issues that Larry's brought up, you know, security, and I've seen it on the Nextdoor app, and I'm seeing where law enforcement is reminding people, okay, it's 9 o'clock, do your walkthrough and lock things up. Those are just little things we can do. So I'm looking forward to the joint security meeting, and once we get that squared away, we definitely need your input on that one.
Hey, Greg, quick question. So this kind of agreement that we have with Sue Frost, Supervisor Sue Frost, is that good indefinitely, or do we have to do that soon, or it's gone?
Well, I mean, I think she's been pushing some buttons to get a reaction from the Sheriff's Department and CHP, but there is no time frame or time limit. I just didn't want to leave them hanging if there's something we wanted to get moving right now. But I can definitely communicate with them and let them know that we want to put it on hold for 30, 60, 90, 180 days.
Okay. Because I think I would echo some of the comments up here on the board about looking at some other options and developing those and working with those and evaluating those, and knowing that if those don't work, we can do this down the road. Yeah. If it doesn't work, I mean, I was just impressed with how, you know, we made a few comments and boom, you know, all of a sudden we've got a lot more, you know, speeding citations. You know, maybe there's some people in here that could talk to that, but yeah. So let's look at what we can do to improve what we got and work on that and drill that, and then come back to this if we need to. I see this option as like we can't do anything else.
And enforcement has been up the last 3-4 weeks, and I mean, I'm out driving around all the time, and I know I've slowed down, and I've noticed people around me have slowed down, and so I think it's had a positive effect on our safety on our streets.
No.
Rick, can I ask one question? Is there any way to get more truth into our security guards? Is there any way to get them to be more than just observe and report?
No, I think that's all by law that they're allowed to do. I mean, they're not sworn peace officers, and so I think they do have their limits of observing and reporting.
And I'm not trying to be a pain, but here's some of the strategy that we discussed a couple years ago. Cleansing all the barcodes so they're all current. All the barcodes are property owners, right? And having cameras when you exit. So you have data that every car that comes in and every car that goes out, you know who is in your facility, who is in your gates, just on the barcodes. And you're guessing, so there's stuff out there already that you can read and can tell you. So when you have a golf cart that's been stolen or taken out of some stuff, and you know how many cars or which cars went out your gate at a certain time, or it's captured on the camera, you've just eliminated 5,000 possibilities. You've got all this data, but we never went through and cleansed all the barcodes. We never strategically put some cameras. I know we've collected about $26,000 on camera fees already. We've never strategically put these cameras, so when they are speeding down Guadalupe, when they are stopping by Para, there's only about 4 streets on both sides of the community that really excessive speeding happens. So you got a camera of them, you have evidence, and you reach out and say, hey, bud, what are you doing here? There's kids living here, there's other stuff. But we never followed through on what we all agreed to. We never cleansed the barcode. So that technology is available to us. And then CSD needs to have a relationship, and they need to know they're going to get fined. If the guy's an asshole, pardon my language, and he's still not following the rules, then he needs to be hammered. We all make mistakes. We all have bad days. But if the guy is consistently doing things, he needs to be brought into compliance or brought into CSD, and we need to talk to those guys. But all these tools are out there. We just never implement them. They're there. They're available for us to get a handle on this stuff. And I agree with a lot of things that Stephanie and Larry are saying. We want this place to be safe. I live on the fastest highway in the whole place, Guadalupe. They come smoking down. And I'll tell you, 15 years ago, there was a kid about 20 years old, and my kids were smaller. I ran out inside of his car and told his old man, tell your old man the next time he comes speeding down my neighborhood, I'm going to go talk to your father. And all of a sudden, he would almost dead stop right in front of my house. And Joanne, your mom was right there with us at this stuff. So, but we have the technology and stuff available to us. We just need to spend a little bit of hours to cleanse it and make those tools work for us. I didn't mean to interrupt your conversation, but
a point that is somewhat attached to what Mike was just talking about, but a little different. I was appalled recently to find out that we have a lot of fixed security cameras. I'm not talking about the ones at the gates, but at the gazebo or at Stone House that are on, but they are not recording anything. Isn't that amazing? You know what? If you can find the answer, I would love to know why.
Any further discussion from the board on this matter?
Well, that could be brought up at the joint security meeting, right?
Absolutely,
Yes, it could be.
absolutely. Okay, any further comments from the board on this matter? We do have a question before us that we'll need to address here. Only if you state your name and lot number.
Sure. My name is Jennifer Leeper, and I believe it's lot 810. I have some family and some friends that live in some other gated communities, and every time I enter as a guest, a registered guest that's on a list, I still am asked to see my license, and they write down my license. So it just feels a little bit more real and secure, even though I'm on their list. I don't have a barcode for those communities, but it just feels a little bit more like if I do something wrong, I'm really going to be in trouble. Not that I'm a troublemaker, but you know what I mean? It just, I don't know if there's an added
When they ask you for your driver's license?
Sure, as you come in. You know, not the coded, but the people that are getting the passes. You know, it's just an added step. I know it could back up our gate. Believe me, I've thought of that as well. But I think it could be an option to, you know, really show that we care who's coming in and out of our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie Xenos, and it is 15392 Abierto. I don't know my lot number. I just want a clarification. When they do an observe and report, is there any kind of fine attached to it? So let's say someone is doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, that's in the CCNRs and so forth, and they go like, you know, like an after hours thing. Isn't that in our CCNRs that, you know, you can't be somewhere after 10 o'clock or something along the lines of that? And they go and they observe and report. Is there like some kind of fine system that's happening to the families, so it's not necessarily just a, hey, go home? You know, the families are getting fined, and, you know, families' money is going out the pocket. Then kids are going to, or whoever's living with them is going to get their butts kicked.
The observe and report is basically referring to crimes or criminal activity. They don't have the power to arrest somebody that's doing a criminal offense. They don't have peace officer powers. If somebody is up at the park after hours, they can be cited as a CCNR. They do have the ability to cite somebody for a CCNR violation. They don't have the ability to, they can't search them, they can't.
No, I
search the person,
understand.
that kind of thing, but they can issue citations for CCNR violations.
Because like my whole thing is like, let's say they can't get them for smoking marijuana because obviously it's not in our like CCNRs or whatnot, but they can get them for being there at 11:30 at night. So therefore, money talks. So I was just wondering. I don't know how many times people are actually getting fined for these things. I expect when I do something, I'm going to get a fine, not a hey, go home. So,
No,
okay.
that's a good point.
You want to speak to that? You want to speak to that or not?
And at one point in time, they actually could issue citations because, for curfew, because my son got 2.
They can do that.
They can.
Well,
It's in
we
the
had to
CCNR.
we had to go to the Carroll Miller Center.
But you're right about the fact that they're really trying to be a little bit helpful to the community and just say, these are the rules. Why don't you guys pack it up and go home? And they would prefer to do that, and I think most people would prefer that they would do that if that is controlling the issue. But if it's repeated performances constantly having the same problem, they need to start writing citations.
And unfortunately, we have too many repeat performances, and that's one of my concerns. And as I told both of our kids when they were growing up, when you get older, you're going to suffer different consequences, and they're going to be more severe. And that raises one other question, and you asked it in a roundabout way, and I'll just say it. How often is CSD actually issuing, by the way, you need to leave and give this to your mom and dad? And that's a good question. And that's one we can ask CSD.
Name and
Better
lot
mail
number, please.
that.
My name is Anne-Marie Wheeler. I think my lot number is 1259. Could be wrong. I was wondering if it's ever been tossed around to have a subcommittee of the board for specifically safety, where it could be a joint place for CSD, RMA, and residents to report to directly. Residents can have an open forum to make their comments. We could become more targeted at the specific issues. For example, take Guadalupe. That's a speed trap. That's a speeding area. We could get some names and license plates of the people that are committing these repeated offense, and then we can go and watch that area specifically. Maybe we can get funding for an officer or compliance officer to go ahead and have a more targeted approach at these big problems that we see repeated. It would also give a voice to the community where they can come specifically, but maybe have some people that are in tune with what our resources are and what the impact would be. Has it ever been tossed around?
I mean, we do have a full-time compliance officer that does respond to specific complaints. There's also a joint security committee, which is made up of the village, the villas, CSD, RMA, and the business park across the street. And we haven't met in some time, but we're putting together a meeting now, and that is an open meeting. So if you as a resident want to come to that joint security meeting and voice your concerns, you can definitely do that.
How are the residents made aware that that exists?
Yeah, this was.
Besides that being mailed, is there something other than
In the past, we used to do it in the morning, like at 10 in the morning, but this time, CSD's requested that we move it to the evening, so it'll probably be a 6 o'clock in the evening meeting. And it'll definitely be posted on our event calendar on the .org site. Usually we'll let .com know, and also Gail will probably post something also. And probably depending upon the lead time, it could probably go into the pipeline also.
Okay, because it would be good, because this is an appropriate place for people to voice these concerns, and we can take a targeted approach and actually make some real change, effect real change, and know what resources we have available. It'd be an opportunity for you to ask for an additional compliance officer or any other things, because I see that those are things we might want to spend money on as a community. And I think there's some good ideas. I think like a large portion of our community are law enforcement, and they absolutely know and would be willing to provide input.
Well, the targeted approach is, again, I did bring that up to the board, and a process that I've been involved in many times is that when a member of a neighborhood or community has an issue that was within our jurisdiction, they would call the office and they would basically file a traffic complaint. And it was a formal process. Whoever was taking the call had a form that they filled out. They took the person's name, phone number, address, specifics about the complaint, where it was happening, what times of day, what days. Is it after school? Is it after school when the teenagers are coming home? Is it in the morning when people are going to work? And what is the specific issue? Well, this green car or these cars are continuing to blow in the stop sign. And what that does, instead of having somebody park just on the parkway randomly, is that it enables those people that can enforce that. They can go to that area at that specific time that there's an issue. The follow-up to that is, once that traffic complaint came in, it was specifically assigned to an officer for a period of time, whether it was a week, and then that officer would have to go, he would be assigned to work that area, that complaint. Many times you make contact with the person, you go to the address of the person and say, hey, just so you know, I'm out here, I'm doing enforcement here, or you at least make some sort of contact. Sometimes you just have to be out there and behavior corrects itself.
Right.
And then after a period of time, then whoever, the entity would report back to that complainant and say, our officers were out there all last week during these times. This is what they observed. This is what they wrote 5 seatbelt tickets and 3 stop signs. It's a customer service approach where, again, what you said, targeted approach. It's a little tough when you're just asking officers to go out there and do random enforcement.
Yes, and you can catch all of us on our worst day.
There are problem streets like the parkways, but I think that is one of the things that I'd like to look at, and that would be easier for a CSD officer to do if he's got direction, a place to go, a time to go there, and what to look for. And then when the residents see that he's actually there being attentive to their complaint, then that makes the residents a little more happy too.
Right.
It feels like they're getting the service that they're paying for.
And that process exists now, or was
It does not.
suggested?
It
I
does
like
not.
it.
It does not, but that's one of the processes that I brought up to this board, and I would like to see push forward to CSD.
And with technology, we can communicate so directly now. There could be an app that all the residents have on their phones, and a website that we can update. There's so many ways.
I just have a quick question. I'm just trying to clarify for you. So are you suggesting that would be a process that RMA/CSD would implement? Not that we would go to CHP or sheriffs to file
Right.
this report, that we would have our own
Right, that would be
in-house process?
Exactly.
If I can add to what you're saying, it's ironic, and what you're doing right now is exactly what we need to take place. Because on July 17th, when this room was filled with residents who were concerned about speeding and stop signs, and then the next night, when they approached the CSD board on the 18th, I can tell you this because I have the compliance committee. So I'm looking at all the citations, and I got my little spreadsheet out, and I wrote down which officer, date, time, and location. Every location that the public complained about, CSD reacted to.
That's good.
And what's ironic, it was like every other day they were hitting the streets, and they did not let up. And there's probably more than a few residents around here that will say they have not let up. But that's good. And Greg's made a good point earlier. Speeding has the speed limit, or should I say people traveling within the community, they have slowed down, especially on Murieta Parkway, but I'd like to see both parkways, south and north.
Well, I think the smaller streets like Puerto, Camino del Lago, they're these
Rio
streets that
Oso.
have down, I live on
Yes,
Rio Oso,
okay.
I live on the Speedway. I think, but I've never once seen a compliance officer there, and I do have young kids that play in the street. And I think that's the appropriate place to get a ticket for 28 miles per hour. But the parkway on the north where there's no driveways, there's no traffic backing out, there's no homes, or or there's stop signs every half mile. Getting a ticket for 28 miles per hour felt like retaliatory for asking maybe for a bit more attention to a bigger problem.
Yes.
And
And what seems-
35 miles an hour get me, but going downhill, which happens every other turn here, you can get up to 28 miles per hour without intending to be a poor driver or without full intention of abiding by the rules. So we don't want to feel retaliated against, and we want people caught, myself included. If you catch me doing something bad, you're going to get me, and I want to be caught. I just don't want it to be egregious. And we're all taxpayers, we're all responsible adults, we all live here because we like the rules. This is why we want to drive so far to work and to school. We like these things.
And you bring up another good point. What CSD needs to do, and we're helping them on that, you just can't focus on the main streets.
Right.
It needs to be spread throughout the entire
That's
community.
good that that's on their radar now.
Yes, it
That's
is.
good, I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Amber.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any motion from the board on the item? We have item B. Well, any further discussion or a motion, I guess? For item B.
I make a motion that we hold on any decision on this at this time for further input and information.
I second.
So we have a motion and a second. Just to be clear, the motion is to table or put off? What was your terminology?
Hold.
Hold.
Hold on this decision.
So you want to hold on this decision until we get
Do we have a chance to do some further study?
some further study? Okay. Is that the second? Is that how you wanted to second that?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, any further discussion on that?
Whatever gets us moving forward.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, all in favor of Cheryl's motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone
I'll
opposed?
abstain.
Anyone opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, we have a motion that passes 6-0 to 1, the one being the abstention. Okay, Greg, we have social media policy.
I think I lost my place. Okay, the next is social media policy. The board has asked for a recommendation from staff to enhance the flow of communications from the association to the residents. Staff's recommendation is to create a Facebook page which would be launched and maintained with the existing staff. Board discussion has also included blowing up the .org website and redeveloping and launching a new website. New development of the .org site would mean moving away from Association Voice, our current software provider, and contracting with a new site designer and maintenance company. Currently, we average 5 visits per day to our site. I do not believe spending money on the development of a new website will drive more site visits. Everything I have read says that you should go to the platform that your residents are currently using, which we believe to be Facebook, and that is difficult to drive them to a new site. But I have attached a proposal from the Neighbor Network. They do create websites and maintain the websites for you. I also sent to the board members a link and a password so that you guys can actually log on to one of their live sites and go through it and see what you think of it. And I also attached are the usage pages for Association Voice on them, how many hits we're getting today on our site, which, like I say, averages 5 hits a day. And so I turn it over to you guys to tell me where you want to go.
Can I take this one?
I would love for you to take it.
So I've been a big proponent of the association having better communication with the community. I could argue that potentially our website only has 5 visits today because personally and in speaking to other members of the association, I don't feel that it's terribly useful. So I think we're not going to generate that amount of traffic on it when people don't find the utility in it. Having looked at the other websites, I appreciate you sending those to us, Greg. I think that it's much more designed towards something that would be association-friendly, things that this website, just for people in the audience so that they know, it had the opportunity for people to pay dues on a website, which I think is helpful. There was a link to click on.
That tab only works if you're with certain vendors for particular softwares. And currently our software would not work on their system, so we'd have to change what way we do get a whole new,
Okay.
it'd be expensive.
Okay, so other options that were on there is, obviously, there was a calendar of events that had everything going on in the community, from ETC events to free rock events to rec events to whatever might be going on, Kiwanis events, whatever might be going on, Summerfest. People, I think, should be able to sign up for their rec events online. I know that for me personally, half the time I'm driving in, I see the banner, oh shoot, RMA's already closed, I can't sign up for an event. And then next day I'm driving out, same thing. I think it would be helpful for people, and we probably would get more attendance if people just were able to log on real quick, RMA's website, put their name in, done, maybe pay a fee if we can figure that out or not. And then I'd also like to see, because it seems one of the biggest problems is communication with what's going on with the committees. I think part of the reason, which I love, seeing more members of the audience, is I think if we each, as a member of each of our subcommittees, had our own page where we could update people in the community, where they could go to, see what's going on in the compliance committee, see what's going on in the recreation committee. Would I like to go to that meeting today? Oh yeah, that's great, let me see what they talked about, or whatever. I just think we can do a better job at communicating. I think Facebook may be one entity of that, but a functioning website, I think, is a big portion of being in the 21st century, and we're way behind, in my opinion.
I'd like to add on to that. Yeah, I did go to Neighbor Network, and I found it very user-friendly. I liked it. I liked the, it's colorful, it's flashy, it's upbeat, it's, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
you're
what
right.
I've been talking about, and I'd like to see us kind of go in that direction. I agree that probably only 5 people were using it a day, like Stephanie said, just because it's you know, they don't really get the information they really want, and I think it's one nice place to go. I like the fact that there's a place for photos of all the stuff that goes on in the community, and even though we can go and get that from rm.com, it's nice also to just have a couple other places to go to look at photos and post photos and, you know, really get some more involvement in a lot of the activities that we have in our community. So I appreciate you finding that, because that was kind of what I had in mind, because I have other units that I had as rentals at one time that have really nice websites, and I just would like to see us maybe look at that. Not create a big expense. We can phase parts of it in or something. I think their cost was $3,500 as I looked at it, which is to man it for the whole year and set it up and everything. I think that's a deal.
Yep.
So I'm interested in it.
Craig,
Great.
did you get this information from another HOA?
No, actually, it was, he solicited me. He does a lot of the trade shows across the country. He had my card from one of those.
I did also do some background information on it, and I would highly recommend that we add the $500 for the branded app that's available on your iPhone and your computer. I think that's well worth the additional cost, because that increases the ability to communicate back and forth with the system.
That's a real good point, because I've heard more than once how some of our branding, we might get something in the mail and you just can tell, is it from RMA or is it from someone else? And branding is huge. We need to attach. And just out of curiosity, how much are we paying for our current website?
About 2,000
$2,000 a year?
a year, yes.
So it'd be almost double.
I think it'd be a good investment.
Well, the $500 would be a one-time fee.
Would they be able to transfer over all our email information?
I'd have to ask some more questions.
Because that would be really important.
And he's willing to log in one day, and board members want to come in, we can sit around a conference table or something, and he'll walk us through what they can do.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
So you say, Greg, you say that everything I've read says to go to the platforms that your residents are currently using. Do we know that Facebook is is that?
I've read that Facebook is old hat, but
I would love,
as far as
I would
know.
love to hear. I would love to hear where our residents are. I mean, where would they like to get their information? I mean, I think the website that you suggested was good. It was nice. I like that. Is Facebook? I mean, having that as an arm is nice, I think. But Yeah, I think Amber wants to say something real quick.
My name is Annie.
Oh, I'm
Annie,
sorry.
oh.
I was wondering if this new website we're considering has the possibility for voting on the voting, I did some really very brief research, but there are several apps specifically designed for HOA boards, and they allow members to vote electronically and with paper, and they supply the process. So it kind of covers all media markets, and I don't know if this does that.
Well, there's a state statutes that address online voting, and you really have to have, you have to be able to get the material out to all your residents, which means you have to have email addresses for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so for most HOAs, that doesn't work because trying to get 100% penetration on your email addresses is very difficult. And if a person changes their email address and they don't notify you, then you're not able to push the ballot packets down to them, and it can validate your election.
What about mixed media voting, where you are reaching them in both ways, where we have an option to vote electronically?
I need to go back and look at the statute, but I don't think it gives you the option of going both ways, but I'll look at that statute again.
The statute of our board or
No,
of
no,
California?
it's the California state statute, yeah.
Yeah, I think any research we could have into that would be helpful, just because I think we have a hard time ever reaching quorum. I mean, I think that's a common thing for any HOA board, is actually achieving quorum. But, so I'm not under any illusion. I don't know whether that would even help, but I know there are some things that we continue to revisit expensively, from what I've heard, and we never can make effective change because we don't reach people in multiple ways.
Sure.
I mean, it'd be a great cost savers if we could push all the material that way, but like I say, I don't know of any associations that has been able to successfully do it in California.
Okay.
Thank you.
I
Thank you,
this-
Andy.
This system actually allows you to get feedback from your community, find out how they feel about particular topics, but to have an official vote is probably a little more difficult. But the feedback, I think, would be a really good thing for the board, because a lot of times we think we're representing the community by decisions we make when we really may not be.
Our current website has that, where there's a place to email all the directors.
And we don't have an awful lot of use of it. People
No,
are not using it very well.
but I mean, but it still has that capacity.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that to answer, I don't know who asked the question, it's my belief that the different social media platforms are used primarily by different generations. So it would depend on what we were targeting and what we're looking at. The good thing is in my experience, is that you can link your account, so you can link your Facebook to your Instagram, and if we want to go beyond that to the fancier Snapchats, then we can do those types of things. I'm not advocating that, but I think that we need to do one thing and do it well and be able to reach the community, and if we focus that our website is that source for the community to go to, then we can focus on that, and then there's easy ways to translate that into potentially Facebook if we decide to explore those options down the road.
Okay, so
And what kind of information did you have, in mind for putting on Facebook, just out of curiosity?
I think it links, so if, take RanchoMurieta.com for instance, so they update their website, but then they can also link it to their Facebook page so that it pops up on people's Facebook page.
But I mean, are we going
It's
to do
very similar.
events, or, what are we going to put on our Facebook page, I
I think
guess?
pretty much everything that ends up on the website kind of duplicates onto your Facebook page.
I mean, it's something as simple as check out all the updated information on the RMA website.
Yeah.
Boom, it clicks over
Or
to, yeah.
new recreation events, we can put our new recreation events that we're offering, sign up now.
you got
through-
no more events now?
So attach it to the website is basically what you're saying.
Just because I don't know, would there be any other administrative burden on staff to run an additional website, or is it something I don't know, is it
I think,
simple,
yeah.
or do you need to have a full-time administrator, a part-time,
I-
volunteer? I don't know.
I mean, we just tried to rank a part-time one, and that didn't do too well, so.
Well, again,
But,
so-
I think it.
That's why I'm asking, because that could possibly change the focus. If this is something that the board wants to go, if this is the direction that the board wants to go, it's something the community wants, but we don't, but in order to make it work, we need to have like a part-time or a full-time administrator that's out, that's pushing information out, that's updating things, that's keeping it going. then that might be something we need to consider.
And I'd probably say, let's not vote on actually moving on the contract tonight, and let me talk to this. I mean, if you're interested in what this guy's proposing, I'll have some more dialogue with him, and I can probably ask him what the average hours per week it takes for a medium-sized association to administer a site like that, and I can get that information back to you.
And did you say he'd be willing maybe to come give us a demo of it?
Well, he'd do it remotely, but yes, he offered to do that, yeah.
So, but your recommendation right now is for a Facebook page, so that's the question?
Well, I think right now we're talking Facebook and probably some type of new website. So I would come back probably in the next 30 to 60 days with a proposal for a Facebook and a new website and what it would cost to administer that.
Okay.
About how much time would you say is spent right now just putting information on our current website?
I don't think we do more than probably 5 or 6 hours a month, yeah.
Well, that's probably all that should happen with a new one, because
Yeah.
according to what their $3,500 fee is, they monitor it and they add anything you want them to add and all that stuff.
Yeah,
But that could be part of the
yeah,
problem,
yeah.
too. So,
Could be.
5 hours a month on the website, if we had
Could be.
somebody that's constantly pushing information out and updating what's happening at the meetings and pushing out meeting dates and updating the calendar, I'm not saying it's gotta be a full-time position or even part-time. I just wanna know, I just wanna know what that variable is, that's all.
But you currently only having 5 people a month? Was that it?
No.
5 people a day.
Five people a day accessing it. And I would imagine they're going there for their architectural fees and some of the some of the information about it. So you don't know if they're actually going there for the social end of it.
Well, actually, on that chart, it tells you that most of them were looking for job postings.
There you go.
That was the
Job
number one
postings
hit,
or
if you look at the data I provided you.
Could you,
Jennifer Block?
The cafe at Rancho Murieta Cafe has been waiting about 3 months to get approval to be able to post jobs. So, that was it. You said that, it clicked. I work at the Equestrian Center, so, I don't know, but that would be great for the community, for the jobs to be able to come and post. I know that's the point of the website, however, it just needs to be updated so that they can come and post and say, we've got jobs across the street. So, just want to throw that out. Okay.
Thank
Are we
you.
going to
Thank you,
post
Jenny.
jobs for other?
do we want to just come back and you want to just come back with this item then?
Yeah,
Is
if
that-
I could.
Is that what we're?
I just need
Yeah.
to get feedback,
Okay.
so I think I
Okay,
got
so
it.
we'll just have staff come back with this what do you want, a month, 2 months? What do you think?
I think next month I can have something
Okay.
more to report.
All right. Well, when you get to be my age, sitting for 90 minutes is tough, so I'm going to call just a really quick break so we can stand and stretch. We've got some really good stuff still ahead, like board goals, motorcycle access, committee reports, so 5 minutes, and we'll be right back in about 5 minutes. Catch your breath.
Taking a break?
You sending a message, honey, I'm gonna be home late.
She was here for a minute, she goes, I ain't coming to meet now, okay? She was here, and she's like, I'm going home. It's probably a good idea. Probably a good idea.
You know what? We made the right move by changing the phone.
What?
We did the right move by changing the phone back on for next month.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, we're not. So this is what we have left. And we go to this. Usually not this long meetings. We're actually the motorcycle thing is, and I don't, and that's our next item. So I don't know if we're gonna vote on it. Nope, we're still on the GM's report. We're still on the GM's report. Yeah, we're still here. No, we're still doing it. Oh yeah, general manager's report. Board goals.
Hi, how are you? Sorry, my hands are so wet. I just brushed
Let
it.
me see. You're right.
What's the question?
We had the board goals next?
Yeah,
So,
that's what's on my agenda.
Incognito right now. Gail, took a picture where
okay, where's my son in my packet?
I think it's just this that he gave to us. I don't know. I don't know. It's the same thing that's up there, I believe.
So I'll be next. Or the board goals, but then we gotta run down list of goals, and then, I don't know, there's a separate thing.
Hey, don't lose that, that has all our, that's our minutes for our meeting.
They would have to go off of,
That wouldn't work.
17 years.
Hi. How are you? Good. Yeah.
I can probably send you some bulleted talking points. But I think that the email was for the board. I don't know if that communicated. But I can send you some talking points in my opinion about it. Some bulleted things.
I was thinking about put it away for when this comes up, in a month or so, when we have the joint security, a deeper conversation about the whole board, and to be able to share some of the things that you said at this meeting.
Well, I'm hoping to be there. I'm hoping to be there, but yeah, I'll, definitely. Okay. I will write something up and get that.
all right, let's get rolling. Some of us gotta go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
We don't have a quorum yet. I dabble in the session. We don't have a quorum. Almost. Oh, we do four. We have four now.
Oh, I know. That's all right. Probably 90% of the people here already knew it anyway. So. I've been in the community since '97. So.
That's the only way to get to know.
Yeah. So most people.
Is he moving? Yeah, he's moving.
We would like to return from our break. Thank you for your patience. General Manager's Report D, board goals.
Since the last meeting last Wednesday, I've ranked all the goals for you guys, and I'll go through them. The number one ranked goal was the maintenance employee, the addition of one maintenance employee, which came out to 85 cents per member per month. The second goal was the speed enforcement trailers. It had a score of 2.4. Stonehouse Resod had a score of 4.1. That's your third goal that you selected. Number 4 is the speed enforcement humps.
Hey, Greg, just real quick, how come you took out the cost per month for the enforcement trailers and the speed humps? Do we not have?
That comes out of reserves.
Okay.
So those are reserved for already?
So that would not add to the.
Wouldn't add to the cost.
No.
Okay.
And then the Stonehouse Resod would be the 84 cents per member per month. The speed enforcement humps, there's enough in the reserves for the replacement trailers that you could also purchase humps. Whether or not you could, if it's for that purpose or not, it's debatable a bit. If not, the humps are about $3,200 for a set of 4 of them. The next thing is electronic information sign. That was selected number 5. That's 47 cents per member per month. Number 6 selected goal was the Clementia shade cover and sidewalk, which was $1.20 per member per month. The Escuela gate was the number 7th item picked. Number 8 is the playground shade. The playground shade was for multiple playgrounds, and it's actually $592 per member per month, so that's a pretty big number. Then you had number 9 was part-time employee for the rec department and for social media. That would be $1.07 per member per month. The boat rentals at Lake Clementia came in 10th. There'd be no cost. We were estimating that break even. The pickleball court, to redo the existing basketball court to pickleball court to convert that, was selected as your 11th goal, and that's 36 cents per member per month. Creating a new motorcycle parking area came in number 12, and that was $267 per member per month. And then the pickleball court, a brand new court, which would cost about $50,000, came in last at $1.78 per member per month. And so if you were to take all these goals and say you wanted to do them all, it'd be about $17.86 per month per member, or a 12% dues increase. And so, I mean, you've got this information in front of you. You guys, if you want to select the goals you want to move with tonight, or if you want to wait until we get more deeper into our draft budget, at some point we need to take these and determine how they're prioritized and how deep you want to go into those goals, if that makes sense, based on the cost and what it'll do to your assessments.
And we also have a table discussion from last meeting about,
you know, what you're comfortably willing to raise the assessment to.
that philosophical kind of
Right.
discussion. So I don't know if we want to have that first, or does the board have any preference on how to move on that?
I have a question on those speed humps, because I have another suggestion we might look at. I mean, we might want to do it with those also, and I had brought this up before we started our budgeting process, but I think we definitely need pavement markings. I mean, we need a crosswalk on Para, between the paths, so you can actually see it's a crosswalk. You can't even see it's a crosswalk. You don't even know the path is there. So we need markings on the streets. You could do it with 25 miles an hour on some of the small streets. I know residents, I heard a study said that they get used to it and ignore it. But we have many more people in the community that drive here that aren't residents every day. You could have somebody that says caution, crosswalk ahead, and have a marked crosswalk, because you can't tell it's a crosswalk. You could have a sign on the Para path that says, watch for cars, for the people coming off of it. There's a crosswalk on Murieta Parkway. You can't really tell it's a crosswalk unless you see somebody in it. You could have one down by Riverview Park that says, slow, park ahead. Different messages on the street that are other than signs, because you can't miss them when they're on the street. And so I don't know where this all fits into here, but I'd like it definitely considered, because I think that kind of goes along with the speed humps.
It's ironic
And
you-
it might even be something that would replace the speed humps.
Well, Greg, hold on just a second. I'm sorry. Greg, I want to keep us focused. What does the board need to give you tonight? What do you need? Because we can discuss this for a long time.
In a perfect world, if you said, I want to do, we're going to fund items 1 through 5, 1 through 7, or 1 through 10, whatever those items are, I'm good to go from there.
So here's, and I'm just going to throw this out there because I'd like to be consistent looking at the numbers that you gave us going back to 2013. 2014, we raised them 2.1%, 2015, 2.5, 2016, 2.7, 2017, 2.3, and then last year we raised them 3%. I would like to stay around that 3% number, which if we look back at our goals and the amount increases, that would put us somewhere between 5 and 6 that we could accomplish this year, where we rated them, numbers 1 through 5. We could do all those things and keep the dues increase under 3%. And
Yes.
that's what I'd be looking to do.
Okay. I like that, yeah.
I agree with Rob on that one.
You like a decision.
So, I just might throw a wrinkle in that plan. I agree with Rob. However, There's a couple of items on here, specifically the Stonehouse Resod program as well as the Playground Shade project, that I potentially would like to explore with community groups, potentially helping with those projects with us. So I wouldn't want them potentially removed from the goals list, but potentially considering other ways to.
Well, I think that's important because, like I say, groups like Summerfest will typically come to us and say, do you have a list of projects we can look at? And so if we're funding 1 through 5, you can say, yeah, here's 6 through 13 that, the board discussed. And I guess probably we'd have to be in agreement that we definitely want Summerfest to fund them, but, unless they're...
And that's kind of my point,
Yeah.
Greg, is that as a board member, I think 3% is a good number. I think that's a manageable number. If we're going off of how we've ranked them,
Right.
we have, again, 1 through 5. And I actually like there's not one of those in the 5 that I don't like. I think all of those benefit great numbers of the community.
Right.
There's not like a special pet project that only benefits a few. Right. That's why I like 1 through 5. And if we did, so we can move forward with this, if we did come up with more monies down the road, either from community groups or Summerfest, then we could fund additional projects. We could earmark that for something else down the line.
Right.
Or maybe even if say Summerfest says, hey, we want to do the resod, okay, well then that gives us that money, then we can
Right.
move down to the next priority project.
Yeah, okay.
You think the electronic sign is more important than the sidewalk over at Lake Clementia?
I do.
Yes.
There are safety issues as far as the,
Well, again, we're making, every year, we've made improvements at Clementia. We just poured the sidewalk over there. We're putting restrooms there. I think the electronic sign, as far as information, I just think it's something that the community needs, and I think based on everybody else here, we all ranked it above the Clementia Shade and Sidewalk.
does the electronic sign replace the banners?
Yes,
that
it
are
will.
currently?
Yeah, it should replace the banners. The
I'm
banners
just
are
asking.
How much, what, $100 for each
Well,
banner?
they're not gonna be able-
$35 each, yeah.
If we just have one electronic sign, we're still gonna have to use banners on, where the sign's not reaching, so to speak.
Like on the south.
Are we-
Or wherever we put the electronic sign. We haven't decided, if the sign goes through, we haven't decided where to put it yet.
Okay.
And there's no plans for a sign on the south either, just one for here at the RMA
Well, not,
building?
well, we don't know, maybe it'll go on the south, I don't know.
I have one more question, I'm sorry. I still, and forgive me because I'm new, but I likely am still gonna have questions targeted at the top line item on our goals sheet, the labor 3% and the 5% reserve increase. So we're not voting on this tonight, right? We're just
No.
kind of giving you an idea. Okay.
In October, you'll have a budget workshop where you can
Okay.
beat that stuff up.
Okay.
I just think the community, in open forum here, if somebody has an opinion that they think we should do all of them, and they think it's okay to raise the dues 12.8%, then we need to hear that opinion. But if everyone's of the opinion that, if everyone's thinking around 3%, then we can figure out what we can and can't do.
Is the board comfortable with 3%? I guess is a 3% increase?
3 to 4.
3 to 4, is that the
I want
range?
to stay
that
under,
we're
I want to
comfortable
stay
with?
under 5.
We're gonna stay under 5, okay. Anyone object to that? All right.
I do. I'd like to keep it
You'd
more
like
at.
to go over
I'd-
5.
No. I'd like to keep it more at 3 or under.
3 or under, okay. Sounds like we're in that ballpark. Well, it looks like we have a comment.
Yeah, just a couple of things. My name's Jennifer Herrera. I think I'm 15, 17, next door to Stephanie. I just have a couple comments. One would be, first of all, taking into consideration that there are a lot of members of our community that are on fixed incomes. So going beyond 3% of an increase might be a hardship for them. The other thing would be some of the items that you guys have up here. I would encourage you, instead of just saying we're going to pass 1 through 5, that you actually take a look at some things like, since you're going to go and talk about the CHP coming in or other security measures that you're going to do, that you would take that into consideration instead of just voting on the speed humps, that you would actually do some kind of a study and take that into consideration. The other thing would be like with the Escuelia Gate. I know that's item number 7, which doesn't appear to be one of your top items, but I think one of the other members earlier had said, to look into evacuation measures and where we would go. That would be something that I think you might want to take into consideration. And then just a couple small comments about the pickleball and the motorcycle. I'm actually not a pickleball player, and I'm not a motorcycle rider, shockingly. But I've heard a lot of folks actually say that, they'd love to ride their motorcycles back to their house. Now, I know there's a voting process for that, and that's fine, but with the pickleball players taking the courts from the basketball players, it doesn't seem to be very, it wasn't put out to the community very well. It just kind of popped up overnight. And so, just as a thought, would be to take the motorcycle parking lot that's already available and let the pickleballers have that, and then we wouldn't have to spend $75,000 for a motorcycle parking area or $50,000 for another pickleball court, and it would give kind of everybody the best of both worlds. So just something for you guys to consider. And honestly, I don't do either, so just something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion? So,
So Greg is just looking for guidelines.
you don't need a motion.
Or if you want to motion items 1 through 5, then I'll put those into your draft budget, and we can go on with discussion on the budget.
What does that mean for the ones that are 6 through the rest?
You know, it means they're not going to be funded next year.
We would make that decision with this vote today.
Yes.
But some of these actually have alternate ways to get accomplished.
They do.
Right.
As an example, the boat rental, if the rep committee came back with a different proposal that was more realistic, they could probably sell the board on
Well,
a no-cost option there.
I didn't say they couldn't happen next year. I just said they weren't being funded for next year. So.
Okay.
Well, but even others that might pop up for one reason or another.
If we found alternate funding or, something, yes.
Reserve funds or
Yep.
something, they could still be
Yeah,
funded.
yeah.
So, you keep talking about 1 through 5, but if we went 1 through 6, that's $2.36. Am I looking at that right?
Yeah, if you went to item 6, you'd be at a 3.6% increase.
3.6?
I just think that shade and sidewalk are,
Is that project possible to split, the shade and the sidewalk?
It can be split, yes.
Do you have any idea what the breakdown would be?
Rod had that number for us last month. I'd have to go back and pull that out.
Well, it's probably,
Probably 2/3 of that cost is for the shade cover itself.
and 1/3 for the sidewalk. Which is more critical?
I would say the sidewalk.
So we could fund the sidewalk at 40 cents.
well, he said a third, 40 cents, right? Yeah.
I still stay under $3. Well, close.
3%.
Or 3.
We're under 4%, right?
Yeah, under 4, yeah.
It's probably under 3%.
We're right on 3?
Close. I'd like to see us do that.
That's an idea, Larry.
I agree, because I think it's important to keep working on the completion.
So the motion would be
of the
1 through
park.
5 plus Clementia sidewalks, what you're talking about?
Say that again?
So you're looking at a motion of 1 through 5 plus the Clementia sidewalk?
And this is for the draft, but
It's just a
correct.
draft,
Yeah,
right?
for the draft.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can
Yep.
throw something out if we wanted to, or...
Or revise some of those numbers.
You better hurry, because I'm going to make a motion in about 2 seconds.
I know, fire came up. Or is this without exploring the idea of maybe having Summerfest do this? Is this draft something that can still change? Summerfest was, you were talking about with the Risate Stonehouse, the phase 3.
Well,
Does approving
Summerfest,
this
if
eliminate
that's
those things?
if Summerfest decides to fund one of our projects, they usually select that project, and that's a process where that's basically charity to us. We don't have any direct, they might give us some money, they might not give us, they might do something else. Yeah, so we can't rely on that money.
If they do that, what happens with the remainder of that? Do we see that savings?
Or we'd find another,
That's
that
my
money would go
concern.
towards another project.
Okay, and does the public get to come and speak about that at any point? Does that happen at another time?
Usually Summerfest, I mean, like this last year, we had 2 fields we were trying to resolve, and we didn't have enough funds to do both of them. And so they stepped forward and gave us additional funding to where we could do a bigger project, a more complete project.
I understand that,
Yeah.
I'm excited by
Yeah.
that, I think that's a genius idea. I was just wondering if, since it's a draft budget and these things change, do you then revisit which projects to fund? Is that the October meeting that you were mentioning?
October will be the budget workshop, yes.
And, okay, that's what I needed to
Okay,
hear
okay.
before you guys make your motion.
By the way, I had a comment about something that you had said. You realize that the Esquello Gate is still funded next year without this dollar. Do you understand that? It was funded.
That would be
It would
acceleration.
accelerate having enough money in the budget to do it. It was a 4-year program to be funded for $1 each year, and the coming year will be the 3rd year. So the extra $1 would have accelerated the program, so at the end of next year, we would have the full funding. Now, it will still be 2020 before we have full funding if we don't pass that. So it is still in the budget and is still being funded, but just not totally.
So it would still be something usable that you would consider in an evacuation?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, and it can be used now for evacuation. It's just that, and it is something that we had planned on doing in the future, and that was why a couple of years ago, we started setting aside money so we would have it when necessary.
I appreciate you guys explaining that to us, because we're encouraged to come, but then I don't want to annoy you by asking questions, so thank you for explaining it to us.
Sure.
Any further discussion?
I would just like to say that if we did happen to get any extra funds that we didn't have to use for this thing, I'm still really interested in seeing that passive gate, and I was wondering, I can't remember where everybody stands on that, but I really think that passive gate needs to be escalated if we could find funds for it.
That might be a discussion for another day, but
Sometime.
I hear you.
All
I
right.
hear you. And, we've been planning for that, and I think we still need a little community discussion on that in terms of how we want to exactly do that, so.
Okay.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion.
So, well, before you do that, well, go ahead and make your motion,
Okay.
because I'm going to continue discussion after it. Go ahead.
I motion that we give direction to staff to prepare a draft budget that would include projects 1 through 5.5. I guess what I'm saying is that would include half of 6, which would be the sidewalk at Lake Clementia, which would raise the dues approximately 3% for the 2019 year.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion on that? I would like to add that I know that there were some comments online about our goals process and how we were favoring the north over the south, and I just wanted to clarify that we take very seriously the parity between north and south. We want to make sure that we treat each side as equal as we possibly can. We just don't own a lot of property in the south, so obviously our sports fields are going to be on the north. We have put a new park in the south. There's a Frisbee golf course going in down there. We're going to like the tennis course. There's a dog park going in, so I know it's on our agenda. We're taking care of the south, I can assure you. And so I just wanted to make that clear, that is on our agenda and we're aware of that. Any further discussion?
That's a nice listing of everything that's going on down there, so I appreciate you doing that.
Sure. And in many of our goals are going to benefit both sides anyway, right? So, okay. Thank you, Cheryl. So we've got a motion and a second. All in favor of giving Greg that direction on a draft budget, right? Or is that what it is? Yeah.
Draft.
Okay. Say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Motorcycle access.
Okay, President Bauer has requested the information on the previous vote attempting to amend the CCNRs to allow the use of motorcycles in Rancho Murieta North. The board wishes to attempt this proposed CCNR amendment again. Staff would need direction to do so. The ballot would go out with the annual meeting packet. The CCNR amendments would be included on the ballot of the election of directors.
I was just enthused by Stephanie's suggestion that we can throw something on the ballot when we vote coming up. I just don't know if we can do it in time, and I don't know if the community's ready for another vote on this. So I just wanted to throw that idea out to the board and see what you guys thought about that.
There was somebody who had come earlier to the board a few meetings ago with some criteria as far as motorcycle use inside the north. And if you were going to have a policy on the north, I think that kind of thing would be critical to include in any vote. It's not going to just be, motorcycle access. It'll be motorcycle access under specific conditions. And I think he laid out a plan as far as that, ingress, exit, only. And
Yeah.
I think if you get caught, then you lose your privileges, that kind of thing.
Are we, sorry. I was just gonna ask, if we were to include this in the ballot to go out for a vote, could we include, specific rules that would be attached to allowing motorcycles on the north, specifically like hour restrictions and specific types of, I don't want to say specific type of motorcycle, forgive me, I'm going to say this wrong, but motorcycles, no ATVs, or, whatever the case may be, so that maybe it would be more specific and more likely to pass, I don't know. Or does it have to be specific to what the CCNR state?
No, yeah, you could, I guess, do a definition of motorcycle and include that as part of the balloting language for the CCNR amendment. You're going to be amending your language in your CCNR, so you can place whatever language you want. You could put a decibel reading requirement. It can't be above 60 dBs or something.
One of the things we currently do is allow the motorcycles to be taken to their house for kind of temporary storage with an escort. So someone bringing a motorcycle in could call and get an escort to their house. And one thing, this might, of course, it'd have to be discussed with CSD and the security staff if they could handle this, but one of the things would be to increase the number of ingress and outgress that the motorcycles have now. So I think it's something like 2 a month or something. We could increase that to 2 a week, so that you could actually go out on a weekend with your motorcycle and then still take it from your garage and go out and put it back in your garage. So that would be one way of easing the problem of the unsightly parking lot, because I think a lot of people would take their motorcycle to their house if they had more opportunity to do that. So that might be a solution that we can do without changing the CCNRs.
I'm Tasha Farnsworth. I don't know my lot number, address 15189 Reynosa. I live on the south. I am a motorcycle passenger, not an operator. I have heard that if this goes back to vote, the south residents would be excluded possibly, and only north residents included in that voting petition. The reason we live on the south is because of this CCNR. I would prefer to live on the north and have the wildlife in my yard and the beauty that you guys have here on this side of the community. So that's my biggest concern is that. Also, it's a hefty expense having the parking lot, a new parking lot put in. It is unsightly. It wears and tears on people's motorcycles, having the sun beat on them, and they have to replace the covers frequently. I have seen after a windstorm, or maybe it was a person, I don't know, but I've seen motorcycles on their side in this parking lot. And because it's something that we care about, it's our property, just like you care for your homes, we like to care for our bikes. Also,
I don't know what your specific rules would be if you pass it on the north. I would be interested in knowing what kind of rules you're thinking. I don't know that we have any specific rules for the south. My husband commutes any day that's beautiful to work. And so it's, for us, if we wanted to upgrade in housing, we would love to live on the north. But as of right now, I can't, we just wouldn't ever be able to live on the north if this never passed, to be able to take our bike home. 2 times a week really isn't sufficient for a motorcycle ride on the weekend with my husband, but he wouldn't be able to commute every day to work. That's a beautiful sunny day. And save gas, yeah.
Tasha, what was your concern about having, if it happens that way, just having the north vote? What was your concern with that?
The south residents don't have an input, and if I don't have an input, then it makes me feel like I'm not a part of the community as a whole. I am not welcome to live on the north and have my vote count
Sure.
as a potential resident of the north.
Well, interesting enough, the CCNRs allow the South to have their own votes for South issues. They allow MTI to have their own votes about their issues, but anything that affects Rancho North, everybody votes on, so.
Oh, I didn't know there's south specific votes.
So the North should be the one that feels offended.
Thank you.
So I was just going to speak up. One of the residents who's come to address us prior had some examples of the rules were bikes cannot be ridden before 7 a.m. and operate till 10 p.m. Operators must be 21 years of age, a homeowner, Class M license. Motorcycles must be street legal and have registration. Renters, children, residents, and guests will not be allowed inside the gate. I'm just summarizing these. Operators must register their route with CSD, so recreational operation within the community is negated. Use of motorcycle for egress and entry only. Motorcycles will maintain the lowest RPM and engine decibel level. So that's just some of the rules. I don't know if it's more likely to do better if we are very specific about what we're asking a change for.
If this actually were to go to, back out to the people in the north for a vote, the board would have to approve that process, right? The board would have to approve the process of asking for an amendment to the CCNRs before it could actually be put on a ballot, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm not in favor of going that direction.
Okay, fair enough. Any other comment?
I didn't understand that last part, Cheryl. What do we have to do?
If we were going to actually amend the CCNRs or put it out to a vote, this board would have to approve that process.
We have to approve the process
Of
changing the CCNR.
Of recommending an amendment.
Before it goes out for a vote.
It can be done by petition, but in this case, we're talking about the board would be approving putting it on the ballot.
So those are the 2 options. And because of time, if we were to reach this election ballot, we'd have to do it here. Yeah. Okay.
Tonight.
Just one last comment in regards to the motorcycles. I think if you put it out to the community to vote on, the way that you put it out to them will always determine what kind of response you get. So if you did put something out, if it was something that we could hopefully all vote on, if you presented it in a manner such as, hey, we're gonna put in a $75,000 parking lot at the front, or we're gonna allow people to go park their vehicles at their house, it might be taken in a different way.
Yeah, you're right.
Actually,
yeah.
That'd be loading, that'd be what called loading the ballot.
but it's
So it's, you know, it is true, and like I said earlier, the people who play pickleball, they need a court, right? And what better court than the one that's right up front for them to utilize and not take away basketball?
Yeah, but that takes away the parking.
The motorcycles wouldn't need it, right? They could go park at their own houses.
So honestly, I would do anything to get that rule changed so that motorcyclists could drive to their house on the north. But I don't think we have enough time before the ballot goes out to present it properly and give it a good chance. So I think we should table it for now. I don't want to drop the subject. I think we can work towards finding a way to get it out the next opportunity, but present it in a way that hopefully we can build some momentum. And so it's just not the normal, no quorum, not enough people. If we present it in some of the manners that have been suggested, I think it'll be a good opportunity, but I don't think we have time right now.
Ron, you don't think that adding one more thing that has to be enforced in this community is going to be a problem?
Well,
I mean, right now, you don't think these aren't going to, we aren't going to have more things to watch the speed
honestly,
on?
again, I live on the south. I've ridden a motorcycle to and from since 1997, and lots of I don't think there's been a single issue. I mean, I can't recall that there's been a single issue with people riding their motorcycles to and from on the south. We don't have Hell's Angels coming in the neighborhood and people blasting our. We just don't. My diesel truck is louder than probably 99% of the motorcycles in that parking lot. If it's a noise issue, I don't buy it. You can buy a small decibel meter for the guards, and they could test the decibels for the motorcycles coming in if that's the issue. I think if it's presented the right way, again, it's unsightly, it takes up parking space for guests. I've been around long enough too that to get this rule changed is going to take more than just throwing it on the ballot and asking people to vote on it. It won't get passed that way. So I think we need a little more tactical approach to it, and I'm all for putting a campaign together and getting it on the ballot correctly and putting it out there. I just don't think that we can do it in time for October.
How expensive is it to put a ballot, Greg? How expensive is it to run a ballot out?
I mean, if you're combining it with the ballot that's already going on, it'd be about $2,500. If you're doing a separate election, you're probably looking at $4,000 to $6,000.
It's $2,500 just for the motorcycle portion?
Yes. I mean, you got several pages here, yeah.
And then about twice that much if it was myself.
Right.
Okay. Any further discussion from the board on this item?
No.
How much for a ballot?
Do we want to just table this then?
I just have one quick
Is
comment,
okay?
less than a minute. I know, right? Seriously, I got to quit coming to these meetings. Stephanie Xenos, 15392 Abiarto. I have lived here a little over a year, and I have heard a motorcycle one time. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm home 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay, maybe not that much, but 20 hours. Honestly, if you want to ban noise and stuff like that, you could ban the airplanes, because that's all I hear all day. You know, I never hear a motorcycle. Never. So, I mean, and they're all over the South. So if it's a noise issue or people driving, I don't even think I see anyone driving motorcycles, really. So.
I think most of the complaints I've heard is based on noise. And I think because of the dogs make more noise than the motorcycles, we should have a special park for them.
It sounds like, Greg, does it sound like you got direction here that maybe we look at this, we revisit this at the next opportunity, maybe not this go-around election, but whenever the next opportunity is, and we can brand it and sell it and educate the community on why we're doing it.
Educate on our new website.
Educate on our new website and Facebook, yeah.
Just, I mean, something I need to say is that when you talk about branding and selling it, it's required that if you put a position statement in the ballot, that the opposing party also has a right to put their position statement in. So it has to be.
I'd be interested to see
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it has to come from both sides.
Yeah, bring it. All right, very good. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we're on item 8. That's committee activities, and the Finance Committee is up. Cheryl.
All right, the Finance Committee met on August 14th, and we had a number of things to approve. We approved our minutes from the June 13th meeting, and we had, we approved a turf vehicle replacement. We also approved an F-150 truck replacement. We reviewed the audit review process, and looks like the association is going to go with the review process. Is that right, Colleen? Okay, we're going to go with the review process this time, which is not quite so involved and time-consuming, because we have such good books, right? Such good books, sorry. And we also looked at the 2019 proposed budget at that time when the goals were just, really in the beginning stages. And also took a look at the financial statements. So do we, is this where we would do the approval? Okay. So we approve these things, but of course the board is the one that has to approve them, so.
Just the review is the only thing you need to approve.
What?
The review.
What?
The recommendation that the board needs to approve from the finance committee is to
Oh, they need to
contract
actually
it.
approve the review process.
Right, right,
Okay.
okay.
All right. So, yes, you talked about the difference between the audit and the review, and we're going to be making a recommendation tonight that we go with the review process of the financial year 2018. So I need a motion for that.
That's a review not to exceed $4,325.
Right.
And so there is no audit, which is listed below.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So, is there a second or motion? Second? She made the motion, I think. You're going to second?
Okay, I'll second.
Okay. Cheryl made the motion. Larry seconded for review process not to exceed $4,325. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the review process, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
All right. And then, do we have to approve the other items that were?
No, those have been our maintenance committee.
Those are okay. All right. Thanks. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Finance. Let's move on to Architectural Review Committee.
We actually met twice since the last board meeting. We met on July 19th and on August 2nd. And in addition to the standard little driveway variance issues and exterior paints and so forth, we also had the Girl Scouts present us with a plan to add book boxes, at least one or two. So they're going to bring us plans that we'll work on in the future for that one. In addition to that, we have I'm recommending that we approve the existing common area lease and extension for lot 16, lot 1245, and lot 1502.
Okay, so that's a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jim. Any further discussion on common area leases? Okay, seeing none. So all in favor of common area leases for lot 16, lot 1245, and lot 1502. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
We also have a new common area lease for lot 87. The board, the committee approved that unanimously. So I'm asking the board to approve that one also.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Very good. Then all in favor of common area lease amendment for lot 87, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Seeing none, then we have motion passes 7-0.
I have another new common area lease for lot 1862. It's in your packet, and the committee also approved that one 100%. Asking the board for approval.
Okay, so there's a motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Joanne. So we have a motion and a second on common area lease amendment lot 1862. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
One more on lot 288, a common area lease. Again, the board was unanimous on this, or the committee was unanimous on this approval. That's my motion.
It's a motion. Any second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of common area lease lot 288, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Mark, anything else that we need to cover?
Yeah, we actually need to pull 87 back. That one has to go back to ARC, because it was a typo on a notification letter. So it needs to go back so the leader can actually make comments and concerns. So we can rescind that one.
You asked me to do that, and I apologize, I didn't do that correctly, did I? So we are rescinding, we vote on that one, we'll bring it back to you next month.
Well, I think we need a motion on that.
Okay?
Yeah, we already did.
Motion to rescind that approval on lot 87.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second to rescind the approval for Lot 87T and send it back to ARC. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of that, rescinding that, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes, the rescinding of that passes to 87, on Lot 87, 7-0.
Thank you, Mark. That's it.
I'm glad you checked. All right. Hey, so that means we're on to our next item, and that is Communications Committee.
Communications Committee did not meet, and our next meeting's in October. That's all I have to report.
Are you having, a quick question, are you having people still coming in for Greenfield issues to your committee?
No, actually, it's been fairly quiet, and I haven't heard a lot of activity as far as people having trouble with their service.
Okay.
So, if I recall at a previous board meeting, we asked the Communications Committee to do something with the social media. Is that kind of been tabled for your committee based on some of the other action that we're going through?
Well, I think it's kind of morphed into this whole, are we going to, because it's come up in several different places, in different forums, because we've tried to set parameters as a board as far as social media policy, and, no, it's not specifically my committee's responsibilities.
What was missing, if I recall, was the specific language that we put in the direction that the board has about how they deal with social media.
And I think that went over into governing docs, didn't it? Yeah, I believe. That's where the changes in the language made. Wasn't it under what the director's responsibilities were, is where we address social media input or behavior? I know there was some language change. I thought that was in governing.
Yeah,
docs.
we
Yeah.
passed what was that, the board that went to governing docs? and-
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was passed, but I think we're still.
It was a code of ethics
Yeah,
change.
Yes.
correct. And I think we're crafting we're currently trying to craft a social media policy that's not in communication anymore. It's kind of out of that now.
I think the communications committee was looking at more if we needed the Facebook. I know Stephanie had showed some interest in coming and talking to us, and I think that's actually being addressed in other areas. and in
And
other
I think we
ways.
have Greg and staff looking at what, where to go next with a new website and Facebook and all that. I think that's where we're at.
Okay?
Okay, thank you. Compliance.
Compliance, we met on August 7th, and just to address a couple items that came up tonight. First of all, and it's sort of like how the weather changes. As everything gets warm in the beginning of the year or middle of the spring, we have property maintenance issues, and our compliance has been dealing with that issue. In May, we reviewed 18 violations, 35 in June, 16 in July, and we're constantly following up with anyone who's been cited to make sure they correct the violation, and follow-up is the key. And then another issue, or another comment that was brought up tonight, it had to do with an evacuation plan. just pulled up my phone, and CSD does have an evacuation plan on their website. And it has all the designated exits areas. So you just have to go to the website, and it'll scroll down, and one of the pages will flip up, and it'll say evacuation plan. You can hit it, and it'll show you all wherever you can go. So it's good that CSD has already taken care of that. And then just, we had the normal amount of appeals and rulings and violations that we had to deal with this last month. And if I can just sum it up, unfortunately, some in our community have become complacent to follow our CCNRs and public safety rules. We're holding our residents accountable when it comes to posted speed limit, stop signs, and dealing with school buses when our children are getting on and off of them. What some residents might forget is that we share the roads with golf carts, bicycles, joggers, walkers, and pets, as well as our animals. Everyone's safety is important to us. The rules are there to apply to not only us, but our guests and our vendors. So it's simple. Follow the rules, educate your guests and vendors, and then, to be honest with you, I'd rather have a binder that's maybe 1 inch thick or less, and only have good news to report to everyone, and do not deal with anyone who's upset, because it's just a safer community. And Joanne did bring up a good point. It's in regards to labeling or identifying marks in the streets, 25 miles per hour. That's something I wanted to bring up in the compliance committee this next month. I have some examples I wanted to show them and get their input.
Crosswalk on Para.
Crosswalk, share the bicycle golf cart path. You know,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that on. I think it would be more just the real safety issues. But you go down Murieta South Parkway, and there's one sign when you come in. That's a very long
There's-
street, if
there's-
you had it
yeah.
posted on the street.
Marietta Parkway is almost all blacktop, and that's about it.
And the signs are hard to see.
It's very easy.
And you have a lot of people who are non-residents using our streets.
Mhm.
But I remember when they were talking about Parapath, and I looked for it, and you cannot see, it's a crosswalk there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, you know, a crosswalk is definitely needed there.
I
So
just-
be sure to bring that up to your compliance
Yeah,
committee.
I plan to.
I just wanted to
And
make
the funding.
note of security's effort to increase enforcement within the community. I think they're responding to the community's request to increase enforcement on speeding and stop signs. And I think it's important that we support them in their efforts to do so. So I appreciate and I acknowledge their efforts.
Yeah,
And I think, and I totally agree that it's working.
I agree 100%. CSD's really stepped up and made a big effort,
It's
and it's
just
paid off.
noticeable. It's like Greg said, it's noticeable. I never, maybe just because I'm thinking about it more now, but people seem to be driving slower.
A lot of it has,
Sometimes I'm behind one of those and I'm going, why is he going so slow? And then I go, oh, duh.
yeah. It comes down, and really, it just comes down to awareness and behavior modification.
Or when you get to a stop sign and everybody's looking
And
to see how
everybody
quick you're
stops.
gonna leave again, so everybody stays.
Yeah, we don't need speed bumps.
I would like one.
I think we need
I'll
more.
go for
I
one, Kara.
volunteer to have the first one right outside.
Let's stay on
my house
topic.
somewhere.
Move along.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, compliance. We have governing docs.
I have nothing to report.
We have
Would you please
maintenance
do something?
committee.
Maintenance committee met on August 6th, and we discussed lots of things, like blackberry bushes and blackberry jam and trees and things that needed to be taken care of. And Rod has done an excellent job this year of completing a lot of the tasks that we assigned to him, and I appreciate all your work, Rod. And the big thing that we need to do, though, to help support the maintenance staff is I am recommending that we approve the purchase of a replacement for the 1998 Ford F-150 that is in need of lots of repair. And I'm recommending we move to approve a purchase for a new truck not to exceed $38,000.
Okay, that's the motion.
I have
I'll
one more.
second it.
There's a motion and a second. Thank you, Joanne. Any further discussion?
I just have a quick question.
Please.
Is this vehicle for maintenance staff to use on ground? Okay.
Rod?
Yeah, well, I answered the question, I think.
Okay. Again, out of reserve funds, the purchase of a John Deere.
I'm sorry, do you want to vote on that?
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, so.
Would you want
we
to,
have-
explain that the truck costs more than $38,000, but Rod has reserved money?
That's the reserve amount,
Yeah.
38,000.
That's the,
Can I get the, or I guess I
Greg?
can yeah, so this truck will have, be fitted with toolboxes and also a pipe rack, and will be utilized, for, you know, we do so many projects and so forth that I certainly need to get tools, stocked in it and be able to, haul lumber and stuff as well. So the 38,000, we feel confident after, looking around that we'll be able to get the truck, at a price that'll allow us, the additional funds to get those, the truck set up with toolboxes and a rack as well.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of this purchase, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
The next item, which is also in the reserve budget, is a John Deere turf gator, and the low bid came in at $11,671.24, and I make a motion that we approve that bid. It stays within the reserve amount.
Thank you for the motion. Any second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jim. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the purchase of the John Deere Gator, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 7-0 pass.
The next motion is the wooden bridge is in need of an inspection. It's been over 10 years, and there is some minor work that needs to be done on it. And give me the dollar amount. $8,200 for the inspection, and that is my motion for approval.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Greg, how often do we have to do these?
So, out in the community, or excuse me, outside of our gates, a vehicle bridge has got to be done every 2 years.
Okay.
But this one typically every 10 years is probably appropriate. And it's a great time to do right now. We had one board that failed on us. For those of you that use that bridge, you've probably seen we have some plywood over one side of it. It's certainly not a hazard. When that happened, our staff went and done some probing the rest of the way across the bridge to make sure we didn't have anything else that was in need of immediate repair. But this gets an engineer out that they'll actually inspect the entire bridge, all the members of the bridge, and come back with a recommendation of what maintenance may or may not need to be done, and when that ought to be done. So it certainly will allow me to sleep a lot better once we get our bridge inspected by an engineer, that's for sure.
Okay. Thank you, Rod. Any further discussion?
Did they come back out and re-inspect it once the work's been completed, whatever the recommendations are?
They will. And the other, I guess the other thing that's worth noting is the board has done a great job in regards to, we have, it's due in our reserves for the inspection this year, and we have $12,000 in our reserves for this inspection. Again, we come in at $8,000 some odd dollars. And we also have $25,000 fully funded this year to use for any repairs that may need to be done to the bridge. And talking with the engineer, which is Quincy Engineering, he feels confident that that will be way more than efficient for any repairs that we may need to do to it as well.
Thanks, Rod.
That's the end of my thing.
Well, any further discussion? All right, all in favor of the Woodbridge inspection, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Larry. Next up is the nominating committee, and I guess that's my gig here. So the bylaws of RMA require that the nominating committee consists of at least 2 or more members of the association. The members named above have volunteered for the 2017 nominating committee. The nominating committee must be appointed at least 90 days prior to the date of the election. Yes, we're having a board election this year. And must make a report to the board at least 60 days prior to the date of election. The annual meeting is held in November. Therefore, the timeline dictates that the nominating committee reports to the board the recommendation at the September board meeting. And I recommend that the following residents be appointed as members of the nominating committee. That's Renee Bechtold, Nancy Pohl, and Les Coons.
All right, I'll second that.
Okay, thank you for the second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of nominating these members for the committee, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. We'll get right to work preparing for this next election. Parks. Oh, wait. We have to appoint, beg your pardon. Next up is the appointment of Inspector of Elections. The bylaws require the Board of Directors appoint a Director of Elections in connection with the election of directors at the annual members' meeting. The duties of the Director of Elections include chairing the tabulating committee and resolving any questions that may arise pertaining to the election. It is recommended that the Board of Directors appoint Ken Poole as Inspector of Elections for the upcoming annual members' meeting and election of directors.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Second it.
All in favor of Ken Poole as Inspector of Election? Oh, I'm sorry, any further discussion? All in favor of Ken Poole as Inspector of Elections, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. That motion passes 7-0. Now we go to Parks.
And the Parks Committee did not meet this month.
All right. Let's go on to Recreation.
Okay. So the Recreation Committee met on July 25th, which was not our normal date, but I appreciate everybody meeting. We did discuss various events. One is the pet microchipping event. It's going to occur on Sunday, August 26th. This is a free event to the community. It'll be from 2:30 to 4:30. They're going to provide services such as vaccines, flea control, and pet microchipping. It'll be $25 with a senior discount of 20%, and then the Girl Scouts are also going to be attending the event, collecting various donations for the SPCA. We talked about the kayak boat rental program, which we've already discussed in our goals. And most importantly, moving on, we discussed a casino night event for the Recreation Committee to host. We're discussing this event potentially, if the board approves, being held in early 2019. Tentatively, we have a date for February 2019 at the Murieta Inn, pending board approval. In your packet is a contract with the Murieta Inn, the cancellation policy, and a spreadsheet of anticipated revenue and expenses. The goal of this event will be another fun recreation event for our community. Again, our goal of the Recreation Committee has been to increase recreation in our community, to bring people together, get out of their houses, especially in wintertime, to do fun things. And what the committee would like to see funds and or proceeds from this event, should funds be raised. They would like to see those funds go towards funding potentially the shade structures at the playgrounds is our cause for the event. We have a community member who's volunteered her services to do our marketing for us. We have another community member who's drastically discounted our printing costs. We will be obtaining sponsorships from various businesses to help support the event and raise funds for the event. So I'm looking for any questions and then eventually vote on this topic. Question?
Did you say you were going to have businesses working with you on this?
Yeah, so we will be, assuming the board approves this, we'll be going to various businesses in Sacramento, I don't want to say just in the community itself, to obtain sponsorships, and from that revenue, we'll be able to put it back into the community towards our cause.
So is the goal to make money on it, or to break even, or?
I mean, it would be nice if we would be able to put money back into the community with this event. Our ticket price costs are going to cover the cost of the event itself. So the cost of the food and the cost of the casino vendor, the cost of renting the room at Murieta Inn. So the ticket cost would cover that. The sponsorships would then be revenue generated, which we would then not make money for the association, but put it back into the community.
So is your, I appreciated your spreadsheet on this, so is your ticket cost going to be $40 a person then? Is that what you're recommending? Or?
Sorry, let me pull it up. We've had so many different permutations of this. I appreciate actually Denise's efforts. I cannot take credit for this. Denise did that. Thank you, Denise. I would anticipate, based on previous casino nights, from feedback that I got, they were hugely attended and sold out. I would anticipate our attendance to be around 200 to 250. So our ticket price may be around $55, $60 a person, but again, we haven't necessarily solidified that just yet. But the breakdown on the spreadsheet is dependent on where we're at for people in attendance.
I recommend that you make sure that the ticket costs are sufficient to cover the expenses so that the community as a whole isn't taxed with any cost. And then that would allow you to have some surplus funds to put back in the rec committee.
Correct.
For future action.
That's what we did with this spreadsheet, is to make sure that the cost of the event was covered.
I think that's
and that was our
a critical
recommendation.
thing for the board to approve, to have some security there that the funding is appropriate.
Have you talked to some of the other organizations that have put on large events to see how many tickets they sell on average, just in general?
As, for example, what, like ATC or?
Well, not ETC necessarily. Well, you have Blues and Brews. That's one. You have something, the dinners over, the fish dinners, crab dinners.
Who does that? Oh, who does the crab feed?
Kiwanis.
The Kiwanis, yeah. I mean, I'm just wondering if you've gotten an idea of what kind of attendance, because 250 seems like a lot. Or 200. I don't know what they used to get over at casino night when they used to have it across the street. But,
Well, Casino Corral so that was a pretty large event, but one, ticket prices were, I want to say, I don't remember ever paying over $40, and there was a live band, there was silent auction, you were fed a full meal. I mean, it was a very large event, and I think the PTA put it on.
Right.
You knew it was going to support CRES. That's where all the funds were going. So there's a specific entity that you were supporting by going. So yeah, it was a large event.
Yeah, that's what I remember. I remember the one the school had.
With many sponsors.
Right.
Yeah, so so this event would have a DJ, we would have a dance floor, we would have prizes and auctions, if you will. The plan is not to have a full dinner because all of the recommendations from the vendor, from the person at the hotel who's organizing the event did not recommend that. We did explore that option, and she basically says it changes the flow of the night, it changes the purpose of the night, it changes seating for the night. So we did explore that option. And I believe that was last held 10 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, so you have to account for potential inflation costs in there. So Give or take, I think we're around ballpark, maybe a little bit more than where that was before.
So Bonnie Shuchek and Tom are on your committee, is that correct? I was just looking at their comments, and she's a worker bee. Yeah, she works at all these things. So she wasn't real positive at first, but it looks like she's gotten into it. Is that what?
Yeah,
she just said
you
it's
know,
a lot of
she
work,
has a
but
lot of
she's
feedback, she
okay
has
with
a
it.
lot of experience, like you say, with events, and I think she had some really good input that we took and adjusted accordingly.
Do you have a plan for your ticket sales? I mean, how are you going to actually sell them?
We haven't gone into the implementation phase because it's really hinging upon board approval. So my subcommittee is basically waiting with bated breath. I'm sure I'm getting a gazillion text messages about if we get a green light or not. We have ideas, and we've talked around different ideas about moving forward with stuff, but we haven't actually gotten into the implementation.
The current plan for the activity, does it have an upper limit, 400 people, 500?
The max the room can hold is 425. So that would be the max ticket sales.
And so you're going to shut off ticket sales at a certain spot? You're not going to just keep selling tickets and expanding?
No.
Quick comment. I hate to micromanage committees.
But
I don't see how 5 blackjack tables, 1 craps table, 1 roulette table would suffice for 200 people.
So if you follow across the spreadsheet, so the 5 blackjack tables, 1 craps, 1 roulette is costed out for 100 people, and then it increases for 200 people. So those tables double in the next column. And then subsequently for the 300 people, it triples. So that cost goes up.
I haven't been to anything like this, but do people come in and basically buy tickets to play at these how does people make money? Do they make money? Or do they play with fake money? I don't know.
So they can't make money because that's considered gambling in the state
Okay.
of California. And Denise, please correct me if I explain this wrong, but, so money can't be exchanged.
Okay.
So what we do is, say for a ticket price of $50, you get so much, what's the word that we're supposed to use, Denise? For the script, yes.
Script, okay.
So people get script with their ticket cost. With that script, then they can go and they get
Play.
so many chips. They play for the chips, exchange it back for script, and then they can put their money in a bag for whatever prizes they want to, potentially win.
Okay.
And you can buy more script,
You can't, okay.
but you don't win money, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
So the total cost doesn't include the tax and service charge?
All of that's included.
Well, says 2,700 in food and beverages exclusive of tax and service charge.
I know, correct me if I'm wrong, all of the taxes and service charges we included in there as part of the cost. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just reading
Everything
what
that's
it
been
said up
costed
here.
out in the contract is included.
So is the RMA on the hook for anything with this cancellation policy?
Yes. There will be deposit
So
intervals.
So explain how that works for me.
Denise, do you mind explaining that, because you spoke with Aaron?
Sure. So if the event is canceled 9 months before if it's canceled 9 months before the date of it, they charge 50% of the deposit. And the deposit that they're asking for is $38.73. And that if it's canceled 6 months before, they keep 75% of the deposit, which is $2,904. And if it's canceled 3 months before the event, they keep 100% of that $38.73.
Tell me what the deposit is again. What did you say it was?
$38.73.
So you're saying RMA would put that deposit down? RMA or the rec committee?
Well, it's the same pot of money.
Well, but the rec committee has a budget, right?
Yes, we do have the funds in our budget that we can use the funds from. Is that what you're asking? We have unallocated funds in our 2019 budget that we could
So-
put the deposit.
So that's $3,873 deposit? Okay, so the total contract's only supposed to be less than 3,000.
So,
Where do you see that?
Well,
In the
okay,
co-
total estimate event revenue. Oh, that's revenue.
if you look on one of the pages in here, she has it written out for us. So 9 months before the event, the deposit is $1,936, which the date is changeable for this event. So that's the initial deposit we would have to put down. Then as of August 23rd, we would owe $2,904. And then as of November, we'd owe the entire balance.
What's the total 2019 budget for rec?
It's 21,000.
And that includes 4th of July? That-
No,
oh,
no,
okay,
that's just for events and
Yeah,
stuff.
I don't get it.
I'm looking at the deposit schedule right up here.
Alex, that's for, bingos, movie nights, Giants games, yeah.
Okay. And there's a portion of that that's unallocated.
Correct.
Was there,
I
There's
believe.
about $12,000, I believe, in our 2019 budget that are unallocated. And the other thing that I was going to propose my committee look at is we have events over, I believe, at least the last 2 years that have lost money for the association. For example, the Giants games, that we need to look at if those are something that we want to continue in 2019 as well.
so would you go back to your committee and ask if that's what the committee wants to do for 2019? Is if your committee wants to allocate that? I'm not sure what we're asking for here.
So the committee voted in our meeting to move forward with the casino night event, assuming that the ticket cost would cover 100% of the event. Obviously, given that there's no guarantee that we.
So,
Am I
so
answering
the
your
full,
question?
Well, I'm not sure what do we need to vote on here? What's the, is there a recommendation by
Well,
the committee, or what do we?
There's nothing in there's a recommendation tab, but I'm not clear on what it wants us to do.
so I have one more question.
Yes.
Okay, so back here it says that they feel the full amount of guarantee and deposit is the $38.73, right? I'm looking on the page after the blue page.
Okay.
Okay. So is that the full amount that you expect to put out for expenditures? Is that $38.73? Is that what it's going to cost?
So my
No,
No?
no, that's just from the hotel. There's other vendor costs.
That's what?
I said that's just the deposit from the hotel. There's other vendor costs on here, too.
Okay. Well, if our total revenue is supposed to be less than $3,000, then we won't be making money on this either, right? I don't know. I'm looking.
What's the total cost of this event if we sold 200 tickets?
On 200 tickets, it's $12,000, $11,957.
And the entire amount of that would be covered by the ticket sales.
The what?
The ticket sales would cover that. And then sponsorships would then
Be an
generate
additional.
anything in addition to that.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm looking for the board for approval for is to move forward with casino night, with ticket sales, anticipated ticket sales covering 100% of the cost.
That's $60 per person.
No, not 60.
I think she said 40.
No, I didn't say 40.
Well,
No,
40
on,
plus 1979, right? According to this chart, additional ticket price,
Correct.
cover costs,
correct,
so it'd be
$60 a person.
roughly.
But
At 20 people, at
200 people.
Correct.
At 200.
200.
Is it
But how-
200 people at $60 each? Or 200 people at $40 each?
60.
Looks like it's
60?
60.
correct.
So we're gonna
But
make $12,000?
You don't think that's too high, 60? I mean, I'm just wondering what your feelings were on that. You think we can sell $60 tickets? I mean,
So I
ETC can barely sell 25.
I don't know,
We have to beg people to come for $25. So I'm just worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, I did kind of a general poll just to see what people felt, and people felt it would be successful. Of course, I didn't give details about what I was discussing with people because I didn't have board approval, but it was just kind of for a fun event in the community and I even went high and said $70. I think the subcommittee would like the potential option to potentially explore pricing options, for instance, $60 per ticket, or, I don't know, $100, $110, $120, I don't know, for couples, or something like that, so that it makes sense financially and the numbers balance somehow, but, and then potentially increasing price intervals as we get closer to the event, but all those details.
Are you going to have the option of businesses or individuals sponsoring a table?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Well, if you go that route, it might not be too bad.
So you're not asking the board for any money tonight?
Well, if we approve this contract, we're committing to some money. Yes, we are.
Potentially, if there were to be a loss, I mean, obviously, it would be
Certainly a down
rec
payment.
budget funds, but RMA global funds, potentially,
One
if it was not
thing,
successful.
one thing to keep in mind is a lot of times when people from the community go to these events, they're fundraisers for specific nonprofits, and that's one of the reasons they participate and go to events.
So that was
That is
suggested,
true.
and that's why we're picking a cause for the event, and the cause that the Recreation Committee thought would be, that they would like to see would be the shade structures for the parks.
Oh.
I mean, not that we would raise the entire funds, but that we would contribute to that.
Are the shade structures removable, just out of curiosity? Probably not. Probably once they're up, they're up.
Once they're up there.
So how does that pricing, I'm just, how do you know your, so when you go out to sell the tickets, right, what are you gonna price them at? I mean, you don't know if you have 100, 200, I mean, what are you gonna price them at, right? So if you started selling tickets today, what would you price them at?
I would probably price them around 60.
And if 300 people end up showing up, then what happens? Then that's just,
Then you make $5.
all right.
The money would go towards the shade structures.
What did you say the maximum was?
425.
How many we can have? There's 425?
And so what would, in theory, what would happen if we have to lose our deposit? How do you envision that impacting rec?
To be honest, I don't know that it would. I mean, obviously, it would mean potentially one less event next year, or, you know, another event that we wouldn't be able to do next year.
Okay.
But we have, like I said,
Don't take bingo away now.
no, I've been
No
told
bingo.
that bingo is it. But like I said, it may be the potential that when I sit down with my committee the next time, that we say, okay, well, we look at the Giants game. The Giants games haven't been well attended. We've lost money, RMA has, on our Giants games. So we're not gonna do that in 2019. I don't know.
How much do we lose on Giants games?
You know, I'd have to go back and look over the years, because it'll kind of fluctuate, and different things will make it be different. Like they'll change a Saturday game we had at 1 o'clock to being the ESPN game of the week, and then it changes the time, and so people who work don't want to go on a Sunday night. So I mean, there's those things that come up.
Also depends on whether they're winning or not.
Yeah, they might be good again.
There's that. Maybe $1,000 for 2 trips, maybe $1,200 for 2 trips. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
So what's left in the rec budget for 2018,
I don't know off the top of my head.
for this year?
I don't know off the top of my head. I can get you that answer. But right now, I can't give you an answer that's
Are
accurate.
you talking about this year or next year?
This year.
Is the budget in there?
I believe last time I looked at it, it was around about $1,000 that we were at, but you thought that maybe that was gonna go down too.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear
For
you.
2018, I believe we were at
So there's not
1,000.
enough this year to cover it?
There might be $1,000, maybe?
Yeah. So can the board vote to, so if we fronted the money for this and stipulated that if any shortfall, like that's got, any shortfall shortfall comes out of the budget of the rec budget of 2019. So if there's a shortfall or loss of deposit, that comes out of the rec budget. I don't want it to come out of our general fund or some other project, something that's earmarked for, or reserves or anything like that. I think if there's a shortfall, then it comes out of the 2019 rec budget.
Well, that
And
makes.
is that the only,
yeah.
and so is that 3,000 or whatever that deposit? That
Is
will-
that up to
will
us or
be-
is that up to the rec committee?
Will that be the only cost then that we would incur then? There are no other costs that we will incur?
I don't know, my crystal ball's rusty. Maybe Stephanie has an idea.
I don't want to, I'm just hesitant to put anything else on the line beyond that, so.
It sounds like if we cancel completely, that's what we lose.
Okay, but there's nothing else then that.
But if you actually go through this and you don't, like, you sell 210 tickets, and let's use another example, you sell 180 tickets, and you only charge people $60 when you should charge them 71, then that could have an effect on what we have to come up with at the end.
And are we gonna have to, this year, are we gonna have to put down a deposit for the gaming tables and for the DJ and that stuff too? Is that gonna come from us too?
So yes, there is a deposit. I think that vendor will be more flexible with us, within reason. He is a personal friend of one of the committee members. So I think we may have more flexibility to move a little bit on that deposit. But to answer Larry's question, if, say, we should fall short and sell 190 tickets and we assume 200 people, this is all assuming we get 0 sponsorships. So this funding is 100% tickets cost. This is no other funds coming in, no other revenue from sponsorships at all. So we would obviously have to make up that deficit first.
What kind
with
of,
the association.
what kind of things are you going to be offering for sponsors? I mean, you talk about sponsorship, if we didn't get any kind of sponsorships.
So the majority of it is going to be advertising. There's going to be different levels of sponsorship. So say, for instance, and the subcommittee has not officially voted or worked this out yet. We just kind of have skeleton ideas coming up. But say, for instance, a roulette table can play 10 to 12 people, I believe, simultaneously. So the sponsorship for that table would be more. And we're going to have an easel with a table at the side of the table that would have information for the company to display. The dealer could wear a T-shirt or a hat for the company. We're going to have TVs that kind of scroll the sponsors' names. So there's, as well as admission, 2 comped admission tickets. There was different levels of sponsorship depending on the tables that they were sponsoring or what they would pick to sponsor.
And they would pay money?
Huh?
They would pay money?
Yes, a sponsorship, yes.
Can we secure sponsorships before we put the deposit down so we have an idea, or no, we don't have time for that?
No.
Potentially, but I think it's hard to go to business to say, hey, will you sponsor my event that we may potentially be having?
Yeah.
That's kind of why I haven't
You
gone
have
that route, because I don't think I
You
can. Because then they would say, come back to me when you know what day and when and what you're doing.
Stephanie, one last question I have is, how does this cost and the requirements for upfronting all these different deposits, I mean, ahead of time compared to what the club was going to offer you?
So we did cost out the country club costs, and the cost that the country club gave us was contingent upon a sit-down dinner, which
Oh,
again...
really? They wouldn't do the other, huh?
They would, but then they wouldn't, the room rental charge would be more, and it would be more than what we were getting at the hotel.
Okay.
And the dates weren't working,
Yeah, I knew that. You had problems with the dates, yeah.
Yeah.
one last thing, and you guys might know this, but if we do get sponsors, we're not a nonprofit that could be written off for tax purposes, because we're a nonprofit corporation, not a 501c3.
Correct. So sponsorships would be writing it off as advertising dollars, which
Okay.
my understanding are write-offs for businesses.
Okay.
I think Greg wants to sponsor so he can get his picture on all the script money.
We want people to attend, not to avoid it. All right.
My last question is that if we stipulate that it comes out of the 2019 rec fund, do we decide that, or should the rec committee decide that before it comes to us? Because I don't want to spend the rec committee's money.
I think we're signing a contract here, so we have to decide how we're going to handle
Well,
any kind of losses.
you think that you want the rec committee to make that recommendation? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'd be looking for, because I don't want to, honestly, I wouldn't want to commit to it unless we're using rec committee funds.
And I wouldn't mind seeing them itemize what would then get, how would that impact their budget? What would be tossed? I wouldn't mind seeing that.
We have unallocated funds. We can commit to this without having to toss something, if
Okay.
that's what you're asking.
But I'd like to see a recommendation from the rec committee that they're willing to put forth those funds of their 2019 budget for this event.
If they're would to operate as a loss. Is that what you're saying?
Well, they're the ones
Right.
that'd be risking the money out of their budget, because obviously they would make the money back if you make the money back, or if there's a loss or a shortfall, then.
And Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you've been working diligently, and you might be able to get more information for us in a little more time too, don't you think? I mean, and I know Denise has been working hard, and the committee's been working hard. I know you guys are all.
I've been working on this for 6 months.
Yeah.
Would you be comfortable if we approve this, so that this could proceed without waiting another month, with the contingency that it passed the rec committee approval?
So at the next rec committee meeting, they would have to approve it?
That would force their answer then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
They approve your.
If they want this
approve
event,
your
then we might as well just say that's where it's going. We might as well make that call then, because we're forcing their vote.
Well, but if they decide they don't want to sacrifice that money,
Okay.
Do you have an idea of what your total expenses might be for it?
For assuming 200 people, it's $12,000.
Oh, okay. So if you sold 200 tickets at $60, then you'd be breaking even, because that'd be 12,000
Without a sponsor. Without sponsors.
Are you going to do silent auction and those kind of things too, or you are? Okay. So there'll be other things that'll be bringing in money.
Yes.
Well, one concern I have, that is, this is a pretty big adventure. And so I feel the board, we should be, I mean, if we're going to, if we vote to go in this direction, just like when we did the spray park and all kinds of other things, we actually all got involved and we all were helping. I mean, you can't do this all on your own. Staff has got other things to do too. So I just think if we do approve this, that I'm just recommending that we all, pitch in as much as we can to support it, because it's going to be pretty involved. It sounds like a lot of fun.
And one of the things that we maybe should look at, assuming the board approves it today, is I think the subcommittee would be open to potentially considering a different date to give us a little bit more time to sell tickets and planning to make sure that we are indeed successful. If we need to do so, then I think the subcommittee, to make it successful, would be willing to consider that.
So you don't have to sign this contract to hold that date right now?
I mean, ideally so, but I could call the hotel tomorrow and say, what dates can you give
Move
me
back
in
to
March,
another
or what
date or
dates can you
something,
give me
yeah.
in April? Because that would
Okay, all right,
theoretically
well,
give us a
that's-
couple more months to plan and organize and make sure it's successful.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I think you know my name by now. I've actually been working on this with her, and I've been going to a lot of the meetings, and I sat with the country club and all that. And I actually joined the rec committee, like sit-in with them because of this event, and because I wanted to help out with this particular event, because I thought it was such a great event. And my friend here just found out about it, and she was whispering to me that she's guaranteed 2 tickets as well, and she's just hearing about it. So, you know, you'd be surprised at how many people would actually love to do this, because, I mean, I know you talk about the ETC event, and, you know, we got to go to one for free, but, you know, you don't get to do a lot of, you know, talking with your friends and gambling and joking, and yes, there's drinking, but, I mean, for the most part, you're enjoying a concert, and so, and the last one I went to was completely packed, so, but I think it would be a great event for a lot of people in this community. I have 2 kids. I'd be more than happy to get a babysitter. I'd be more than happy to pay $120 for both of us. I'd probably even buy a dinner before I went at the Murieta Inn. But I think it would be an absolute fun event. So, and she just found out about it, and she's all on it. So, that's it.
Okay, any further discussion? Jim, do you have a platform on this one?
I'm taking it all in. I really want the event to be successful, but I'm also listening to all the concerns about how the money's going to be, you know, the overall cost.
Okay, everyone's had a say now, so I guess it's time for a motion.
So are we making a motion that the contract be approved to go back to the Recreation Committee to see if they want to approve it?
You can make any kind of motion you'd like, Joanne.
That's the last time I heard it.
So is that a formal motion, or is that just a question?
Well, no, I think, Rod, that wasn't what you said. They don't have to, it doesn't have to go back to them to approve, it has to go back to them to say if there is a shortfall,
That they
you
would
want it to
lose.
be addressed by the Recreation Committee with their budget for next year.
Correct. Well, I think basically what we would be doing would, I mean, until their 2019 budget is funded, that RMA is basically fronting them what they need to secure the contract. When their budget's funded, that money comes back to us, and then the events, the rec committees, whatever the shortfall or money they make is that's, as long as it doesn't come out of our main budget and it's all in the rec's budget, then let them have a go.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a lot of work,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very fun when it's successful.
So and I agree, but let's get a motion here. Do we have a motion on that? Is that a motion, Joanne, that you had, or no? Backing away? Backing away?
Can I make the motion?
You sure can.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to move forward with the casino night in 2019, final date to be determined. Is that okay to state it like that? With the funds coming from the Recreation Committee budget pending final Recreation Committee approval. What else do I need to say?
Is there not to exceed, or is there a limit? What is going to come out of? It's essentially our general fund. I mean, we can call it whatever we want. You know, it's coming out of general fund. So, do we have a limit on that? Is there a limit on what we're going to be able to?
So maybe we can say not to exceed any unallocated funds for the 2019 recreation budget, because we may still have some fluidity in what programs we offer in 2019. For example, if we don't offer the Giants game, we may still have some monies left over from that, or say we take away bingo. Just kidding. We may have some funds from that. I'm just saying, if we
You have
move
it right on your
events
hands.
around, so it would be any unallocated funds in the recreation budget.
These people from the village will come over here.
I
and be
know.
mad.
That doesn't cover the contingency of, I mean, that may cover the payment if we don't do it at all, but if we go through it and still come up short $10,000 or something, you're still adding that to by your motion.
I'm not understanding, I'm sorry.
If we've been talking about the 3873 because that's the dollar amount we would be out if we voided the contract within a few days of the event. But what we haven't really got a handle on is any particular cost that might be associated with physically not covering the
You mean other costs, like the vendor
other costs
and?
that are from this other chart
Correct.
that aren't physically, you're not guaranteed you're gonna have this amount of income to cover this.
So
So there is the potential for there to be a shortfall on ticket sales or on the cost from the hotel, or the vendors that we might have to cover, or the rec committee might have to cover, in addition to, or not necessarily in addition to, because if we're holding it, the event's gonna happen, so we wouldn't have the 3873, which is the contract signing monies. But we could have a significant amount over here on the operation funds after the event's over, where there's a shortfall. So is your motion to cover all of that potential shortfall?
I think it would have to be.
Which we don't know.
So we don't have a cost number on it.
Well, I think it's costed out what it could potentially be, but of course, we don't know what that number would be.
But again, I want this to go back to the rec committee, and I want them to understand, because they better understand what part of their budget they're risking, right? So, and so I want it to be approved by them. So this is, basically, we're approving to, I guess the motion would be that we front this the deposit to secure it, to be repaid out of the rec committee funds at the time that it's funded, and then all other monies deposits comes out of 2019 rec.
And she should probably, I think conceptually, if you approve casino night tonight, I think hopefully next month we can bring the individual contracts to the board for approval.
You mean besides the vendor, I think is the only other contract.
Yeah, you got the hotel contract, you've got the table,
I think the only other contract we have is the actual.
the table,
The
and
table,
the
casino vendor,
DJs
which
had
we
a
already
separate
all have.
contract too.
It's the same person. Which we already have the contract. So do I need to come back to the board then again after rec discusses it and approves it? Or am I good to go once rec?
Well, we don't, technically, in my view, we don't have an official motion here, so if anybody wants to make that clear.
Rob's tried. His was better than mine.
She made a motion.
Did she make a motion? Did I miss it? Okay, I didn't.
tried. Rob
I didn't
sounded
quite-
better than mine.
I didn't know if you were done with it, because I think you asked for assistance to finish it.
I did.
So,
So we have a motion by Rob/Stephanie.
Do we understand, or just, and we're clear?
could you repeat it for the sake of?
The motion is that RMA, because of the timing, is that the RMA board approve the 3873 to secure the deposit for the hotel, which will then be repaid out of the 2019 rec funds.
Okay, so is that the total, so that's the total cost?
And that's contingent upon approval from the rec committee, with the understanding that they know that the budget for this is their risk, it's not ours.
Well, it's everybody's money, because what comes out of the rec money will be
Right, but I'm
services
not on
given
the
to
rec
rest of
committee,
the
I'm
members.
not working on this, and
Yeah.
so I
know.
haven't talked with the vendors, I don't,
Right.
right? So it's up to those people on the rec committee who put on the rec events to decide if they want to risk whatever it is, a quarter of their budget on this event. If they decide, if they're confident that they can make money and they're not going to lose money on it, then
But
They're the ones that are, Stephanie's been working 6 months on it. They're the ones that are gonna have to work the next 6 months on it in order to make it a successful event, so.
How much staff time do you anticipate being needed for assistance with the committee on this?
I'd probably ask Stephanie that question.
I don't have a good feel for that. The subcommittee's been trying hard to do the majority of the work for this, although I do know, like Denise spent time on the spreadsheet, and she did spend time calling the hotel to make sure she understood the different contract costs for me. I don't know that I can quantify the time that she spent on it. But we anticipate as a subcommittee, not staff time, obtaining the sponsorships, doing the printing costs. There probably will be some staff time in terms of people coming in, buying tickets.
Tickets will be sold here.
Potentially, we'll probably do what other groups do. Maybe we'll sit out in front of Rayleigh's in the morning, or sit out in front of the local Bean, and maybe sit out at Stonehouse. I don't know, but try and hit the community. We have a fairly large subcommittee, so, and I think everybody's very, very committed and very diligent to work hard on this, so.
All right, I think we beat this one to death.
Yeah, we're still waiting on a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, so that motion has been seconded. Any further discussion? Oh, Rob. Well, so I want to make clear, do we have a maximum in this? This motion has a maximum that that we are potentially out for. That's what I just want to make sure. There's a maximum, right?
Yeah, it's based on ticket sales, so there's no, if you want to say only getting 100 people,
So,
or plan enough for
so,
200.
but
So the
I
question is, they sell no tickets, you're out 12 grand.
Yeah.
But
At 200 people, right?
Yes, 12 grand
If
at
we
200 people.
assume we're at 100 people, it's 7,000? I'm not looking at my spreadsheet anymore.
Yeah, so
So we don't lose that deposit. If we get to that point, we're not losing the, if we have the event, we're not losing the deposit.
Correct.
So that money then is not
So it would
lost.
just be a casino night for the board at that
But it's spent.
We still get another sponsor.
does,
Maybe Free Rock will
All right.
sponsor us.
Okay.
does the hotel have a minimum
I'm-
as
I
far
mean-
as attendance?
I'll tell you, I'm only going to vote for it because I know how hard Stephanie's worked on it. So I'm going to go with it. I'm just not comfortable with how this is set up. But okay. So all in favor? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we have board member comments. So let's go around the room. Rob?
I got none.
Stephanie?
Got nothing.
None.
None.
Nothing for me.
All right, so I got a few minutes here. Hey, I do want to thank Larry. I did sit in on his ARC meeting, so I think I've got around to everybody now. I've sat in on all the committees except for maintenance, so I'll try to get that. I do appreciate you guys inviting me in. I just want to point out just one thing. When I looked out in the audience this evening, a lot of young faces. I felt old looking at the young faces out in the audience today. Don't laugh. I really did, and it was great. It's great to see that. But I have to say, the one observation from going to all of you guys' committees over the last year is that most of the committees don't have those young faces on them. They don't. They're more seasoned, with the exception of a few, and not that seasoned faces aren't valuable. They are. I would like us to try to get more people that are reflective of the community on some of these committees. I think that would be good. Not that you guys didn't do a good job, because you guys did. You had a good meeting.
That's good.
But I think we would benefit from having. I looked out there, geez, I was thinking, man, how old am I now? So anyway, I just wanted to make that observation. Oh, look, I still got 3 minutes. Okay, so.
That clock hasn't moved.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Our next regular.
Oh, did you ask everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, he did.
Next regular board meeting is September 18th or something? I don't see it listed here. 16th, sorry. Third Tuesday in